On behalf of all the people who have assembled here, I would merely like to mention, if I may, that our unanimous attitude is one of lasting gratitude for what our friend has done for us today. And therefore, I would simply like to say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me. I may sound double Dutch, but my delight is such. I feel as if a losing war's been won for me. And if I had a flag, I'd hang me flag out to add a sort of final victory.
Welcome to the DigiGods Holiday Podcast.
Thank you, darling.
Hero.
Yes. That's like the most perfect intro I think we've ever had. Very, very proud of my daughter.
Outstanding.
And the intro music, of course, is from Scrooge, the musical Anthony Newley, Albert Finney musical Christmas Carol, which I've always been very fond of, and I don't like it when people rip on it, but it's a fun movie. Darn it, Albert Finney is Scrooge, singing songs.
Hard to believe that Anthony Newley was once the highest paid actor in the world.
Was he really?
Yes.
Anthony Newley?
He had a moment. Anthony
Wow.
Newley had a moment as being the highest
Wow,
paid
that's
actor
kind of crazy.
It's only a moment, but, you know.
My goodness.
I'll take that one moment.
Yeah, well, we have a surprise here. We have a special guest. Special guest, go ahead and say hi.
I feel like I'm on what was that show? What's your line? What's my line? Yeah. This is Mark. Yeah. I'm back. I am back because it is LAFCA voting time, and Tim and Wade and myself are doing nothing but watching movies day and night and day.
Yeah. Very true. We're watching a lot of movies. And are we loving a lot?
Loving a lot. I'm going to share my microphone with Mark Wade. So
Okay.
we're kind of loving a lot. No,
Yeah.
No, liking a lot, but not loving. Loving a few.
Yeah.
A Boy, Girl, Dream.
Love that.
We were just talking about this.
Which
a moment ago, so
which
they're
I
top of
talked about on
mind.
the radio too.
And 3 or 4 others. In terms of the big movies, I suppose A Star Is Born.
The favorite.
You know, the favorite. Yeah, and then we move off into some, you know.
And Roma is getting an enormous amount of love, which I still haven't seen. And then kind of there's another tier where you start getting things like the Melissa McCarthy film, BlacKkKlansman.
BlacKkKlansman is right there on one of the tops for me.
It's right near the top for a lot of people. It doesn't seem to be near the top for enough people. It strikes me that there are 3 films that are really in the running, which is Star Is Born, Roma, and The Favorite. Those are the 3 that seem to be getting the most attention. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, I've been surprised before. Look, we gave Best Picture to WALL-E one year, for crying out loud. Then that came out of the blue.
I think what we really did is we gave Best Pictures the first 20 minutes of WALL-E. Because those, if you remember, were so beguiling and so Chaplin-esque that even as the film became a little more typical of the Pixar in-house style, we were still so swayed by those magical first 20 minutes. But actually, animation-wise, it has not been a good year, although I loved the Wes Anderson stop-motion thing.
Controversial.
Yeah, the Isle of Dogs, which a lot of people love, but a lot of people don't. And there are some, ethnic and racial issues that come up with that, which I think is worth discussing. I don't think they hurt the film.
No, it's not. It's not worth discussing, Wade. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I got the whole thing where it's what do they call it?
Appropriation.
Forget it. Take that word out of the dictionary.
Yeah.
If you want to wear a yarmulke and you're like some African American rapper, go wear a yarmulke. I don't care. Go nuts.
That's not I don't have any issues with it. I know some people do, but I think Wes Anderson has every right to make a movie about Japanese culture, just as Chloe Zhao has every right to make The Rider. So it ultimately it's the movie that has to stand on its own. Also, I should make mention of the fact we didn't have a podcast last week for all of the obvious. Whose phone's ringing? Is that mine? That's mine.
Don't stop the recording, Wade.
Oh well, there we go.
Uh,
Mark's laughing.
Wait.
He knows who's calling me. We didn't have a podcast last week and that's partly what that phone call was about. because half of my city, more than half my city, practically burned to the ground, as I'm sure everybody notices. So it is a very somber and sober Thanksgiving week here where I'm at. I, of course, have experienced many fires here in this community and in Southern California, and up close, at close range. 25 years ago was the one that really set everybody's teeth on edge over in my part of the city. But this one was pretty ferocious, pretty vicious, and the Zuma Beach area is like a war zone, and it's very, very sad. And I've got about a dozen friends who lost their homes, and about 4 of my daughter's classmates at least also lost their homes. And so the school district is being great. Local faith communities are being great. The city is being great. So far, all of our local political representatives have really been doing good work. So it's tough here. It's a tough Thanksgiving week, but we're you know what? We're here and we're ready to do a fun podcast. We got a lot of great stuff to include in this show. We've got interviews. We've got Mark here. We have my daughter doing our little intro. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So, Mark, you had a story as well recently.
Well, here's the thing. Something
Something more interesting happened after you and I just happened to bump into each other at the Saucer House.
That saucer house thing is cool. So part of the fun, which I noticed that Wade and Tim don't take much advantage of, but I do because I love free food. During this time of year, is you get invited to a lot of parties. And the other night was the A24 party. Now, A24 is the upstart distributor that they distributed Moonlight, which won Best Picture.
They have a deal with Apple now.
They have a deal with Apple now, which is very strange. But
It's good for them.
it's good for A24.
It's good for Apple.
I'm afraid that Apple's going to drop the ball on the whole original. Like, they're sort of late to the party, and I don't know that they're going to throw as much money at it as Netflix has, or give those favorable terms.
Well, here's
$1 trillion.
yeah.
But how do they want to spend that $1 trillion?
See, here's the thing, and not to go too far afield, I'll let you get into the A24 stuff. But here's my feeling on Apple really quickly, not to take up too much time because we only have so much time. But the Apple is a computer company, and I think they understand that. And I don't think Apple wants to have a subsidiary known as Apple Studios. I don't think Apple wants any subsidiaries. Apple has done well in the music field by leveraging technology in a way that benefits creators, so the creators are using them as a platform, but they aren't creating the music. Other people are creating the music. I think Apple wants to be in the movie business in the same way, and in the television business. They want to still be a technology company, and they want to be a platform that people want to go to. I don't think they want to be in the production business to any significant degree. So I think that's what they're looking for, are partners who are already in the business, who aren't going to be, they're not going to be looking to Apple for all of their cash, but they're going to be looking to Apple to be a partner, and Apple wants to be the platform company more than the production company, if that makes sense. That's what I think Apple wants to do.
Well, whatever they do, the bar is very high. So the bar is very high. So if their sites are not as high, right, they don't want to be like a Netflix production company type thing, cranking out. Whatever they do had better be really, really good. Because otherwise, people are going to say it's not as good and they're not doing as much.
I think they're looking at Netflix, and they look at Netflix's debt, and I think they look at Hulu and Hulu's debt, and I think they look at Amazon and they see how little return Amazon has gotten for what they've spent, and I think they realize we don't really want to do what they're doing. That's what I think.
Which is fine. I mean, Netflix obviously is the gold standard right now. But anyway, so I'm at this A24 party, and here's the thing: you have to understand, and people, long-time listeners understand this. I'm an idiot. They understand that, and they're okay with it, And so I thought, okay, the A24 party, A24, they didn't release a lot of big films this year. It wasn't on their slate, but they did release the directing debut of Jonah Hill, now called Mid-90s. Now I know Jonah. Jonah and I developed a show together like 14 years ago. Mm-hmm. It was me and Jonah hanging out at Henry Winkler's house for like 2-3 times a week for 3 months developing the show. So I know Jonah. And I've seen him subsequently at screenings and said hello and whatever, but I haven't seen him in maybe 5 or 6 years. So I have a feeling he's going to be there. So I go, you know what? I like free food. And because I'm unemployed, I like free drinks, which are normally very expensive. And I like free food. I also like free drinks. Have I mentioned that? And I like free food. But I'm thinking maybe Jonah will be there. So I am talking to people, I'm mingling. I said to somebody, every time I talk to a celebrity, I always say the stupidest thing. I'm very bad talking to celebrities in social situations because I always wind up saying something stupid. Now, mind you, I was a talk show segment producer for years. My job was to talk to celebrities, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to social situations, talking to celebrities, I'm an idiot who's going to say something stupid. So I'm waiting for Jonah to get there, and I'm tired of waiting for Jonah to get there. So I leave. And as I walk out the door and exit into the light or the dark of the Sunset Strip, Jonah shows up. So now I think, okay, I got to go back because I want to say something to Jonah because I hadn't seen him in 5 years. He's part of the reason I went. So Jonah's not hiding. He's not brooding in a corner with his celebrity buddies in a booth. He's talking to people. But I don't know what to say. And he's got a bunch of people around him, but he's being very nice to everybody, it looks like. But I'm trying to find my moment and hopefully not say something stupid, which of course is inevitable. So I'm sitting in this chair, sitting on that couch, walking, stalking, trying to find my moment. Finally, I see the moment, and I think to myself, before I tap him on the shoulder, I think to myself, he probably remembers me, but may not remember my name. So I'm going to reintroduce myself. So I tap him on the shoulder.
Always a smart play, by the way. Always a smart play.
If you can slip that in tactfully, it doesn't seem embarrassing to me,
Yeah.
to the person, right? So I tap him on the shoulder. He turns around. He says, hey, gives me a hug. And of course, I say, Mark Heiser. He goes, oh, yeah, of course. So he big smile, gives me a hug. And so I say to him, I loved mid-90s. Never saw it. I loved mid-90s. Never saw it. And I thought to myself, I was saying to myself, I was watching this, and Jonah, while I was watching this film, which I never saw, while I was watching this film, I thought, God, this is so distinctive looking. Got a great look. Never saw the film. It's got a great look. Who were you influenced by? When you work with these great directors, and when you're deciding on the palettes and for some reason he took that question so wrong. And I don't know why. Either it took the joy and partiness out of the evening by asking this very august film critic question. I don't know if that was the reason, or because he didn't like the question, or whatever it was. You could see the joy of the evening drain from his face with this question. And so I start fumbling around to try to ask it in a different way that he doesn't have to answer, but just don't look at me like I'm an idiot. And I was unable to find this pathway to success, to conversational success. And then eventually he just sort of said, it's my life story, man. As if look, I don't give a crap what you're saying. It's my life story. Go to hell. So then at the end, I said, oh, you're going to be directing anything else? Or however I said that. He goes, yeah, I got something next year. It was really great to see you. Goodbye. Yeah. So essentially, he just had enough of me and how I was ruining his evening.
What was wrong with your question?
I have no idea. I don't know whether, my only guess is maybe he didn't want to admit that he was influenced by somebody, even though he's a 34-year-old man. He's obviously influenced by somebody. Or it was such a fun evening with his friends and family and success that here's Mark asking the serious movie question, and all he wanted to do was get wasted.
Yeah.
And I'm harshing his buzz. I don't know. But whatever it is, I literally saw the energy, the joy drain from his face as he realized that this is what he's being asked in this party atmosphere. And I left and I just slapped myself on the face. I thought, what the F is your goddamn problem? Literally, I haven't seen this guy in 5 years. We worked together. We know each other. Gave me a big hug. And I literally just ruined the whole thing. The only thing that made me feel better is the fact that he probably forgot the conversation the moment it ended.
So what you're saying is that Jonah Hill, someone that you were less slick with him than I was with Benedict Taschen.
Okay. Now here's the thing. Now Wade is a smart man. I'm the opposite of a smart man. Tim, smart man. I'm the opposite of a smart man. And Wade says to me, he's good. He has something he wants to say to Benedict Taschen, who is the publisher of the Taschen,
and you will find out later. Okay, so we have a couple of interviews on the show this week. One of which I was late to because I was at this event at Benedict Taschen's Saucer House, very famous architectural saucer house in the Hollywood Hills. There was an event for the Van Gogh film.
Yes, at Eternity's Gate.
At Eternity's Gate, which stars Willem Dafoe as Van Gogh and was co-written and directed by
Julian
Schnabel. First time an artist has made a movie about an artist. Anyway, so Schnabel was there, and Willem Dafoe was there, and the whole deal. Pacino was there, and Guillermo del Toro was doing the Q&A. And
Michael Mann.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So anyway, I walk into the Saucer House, and the first person I see unexpectedly is Mark stuffing his face. And I don't even remember who you were sitting next to. Were you next to Del Toro?
No. So get this. Okay. Quick side trip.
Yeah.
I'm sitting next to this guy who I cannot wait to get away from because I wanted to talk to you. So it's an older Asian guy, maybe in his mid 60s, and he has this beautiful, probably 40-ish girlfriend, wife, who the hell knows.
Yeah.
She says to me, the wife says to me, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick any 3 films. Just think of 3 films right now, your 3 favorite films, or not even your favorite films. If you pick any 3 films, my husband here, the 60-ish Asian actor, my husband can tell you the first shot of that film. He can name the first shot of every film.
It's a good talent.
So I said, okay.
No, it's not. But go on.
So I said, okay. I said 2001, Chinatown, and Being There. And he says, okay, so he gets 2001 right. He gets Chinatown, I did not remember. I don't remember the first shot of Chinatown. I don't remember what I had for breakfast. So I don't know if he's right or not. And then Being There, I think I remember the first shot of Being There was a shot of a television. Was the first shot? Who even knows? But I think so. I kind of pushed back on his guess, but then I didn't want to. I wanted to salvage his ego. Plus, I didn't give a crap. And I said, you know what? I was like, you know what? Actually, you know what? You might be right. I'm going to talk to this guy over here, you freak. So that was it.
Well, anyway, we had a good time. The food was fantastic. Catering was great. You had to take a funicular up to the place. It was kind of cool.
You could take a funicular, or you could take the stairs.
Yeah, there's too many stairs. I was not doing that. But I took the stairs down with a TV actor whose name I can't remember. But anyway, so I was there, and Tashin was there, and what was the thing you were going to say about it? Because I was slick with Tashin.
Well,
right?
You wanted to pitch Tashin something.
Yeah.
And I thought, he doesn't want to hear that crap. It's like a very nice gathering in his home.
Yeah.
So I was not daring you or anything like that. You were going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I was curious as to how you were going to approach, how you were going to create the moment.
Yeah.
Or seize the moment
Yeah.
to walk up to him and say this thing he clearly doesn't want to hear because he's at a party.
Yeah. Well, it started by engaging him and telling him that I have a number of his books and I don't read them without wearing white gloves.
Which by the way, is true.
Yeah, which is true. And to underline that, the white gloves are out right now for this show. Later segment on the show.
Wade showed me there it is. I'm staring at it right now. A gigantic Ziploc bag with a red zipper thing of white effing gloves.
Anyway, so we will get to that shortly. And Tim, we're going to talk momentarily about the BlacKkKlansman event that we were at as well.
Yes. That was quite
something ties in with that. But
Interesting
first, let's get going. Let's talk about some titles, and we got a great box set here, which is one of the more beautiful ones for the season from Time Life, the Robin Williams Comic Genius boxed set. And it's a wonderful big picture of Robin Williams wearing the king's crown. This comes with a full color booklet, all 5 of his HBO stand-up specials, footage from his USO tours, TV appearances, interviews, clips. It even has half a dozen episodes from Mork and Mindy. It's just everything here, and there's a bonus DVD with the 2018 HBO documentary Robin Williams Come Inside My Mind, which was co-directed by Alex Gibney. It's just, if you love Robin Williams, if you want to see his comic genius, this is it. This is just completely immersing yourselves in a talent who has left us far too soon, and it's terribly sad. I'm still learning a lot about that Lewy bodies thing that basically killed him.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a form of dementia and everything else. But in any case, very, very sad. But this is a wonderful, wonderful tribute set, 24-page booklet. It's just this is a great thing to give anybody who remembers Robin Williams and wants to remember Robin Williams. It's just a beautiful, beautiful set. And then we've got a whole ton of other television guys.
Including some old stuff. I love the Gidget, the Sally Fields Gidget series.
Yeah.
It was just, fantastic. 1965, 1966, all 32 episodes the complete series. Look, Sally Field, I think, came into my life as Gidget. And who would have thought that little bouncy girl would go on, Flying Nun, obviously, but became one of the biggest movie stars ever.
Yeah,
you know,
isn't
I
that
mean,
crazy?
won that Oscar, and just a major motion picture star. It's really kind of an interesting
throughout the
arc.
80s, and right up to Forrest Gump. I mean, it was late 70s, through the 80s was when she really, really had it going on, and right up to playing Forrest Gump's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of neat. Anyway, this is a complete series. Not much on there, but it's a lot of fun.
We've also got MacGyver, the original MacGyver, not that lame, just this stupid reboot. It's lame, man. Come on. Why do they do this with Magnum and MacGyver? And it's like, you got to have the guy. You got to have the one and the only, the original Richard Dean Anderson. He's MacGyver. There's nobody else who's MacGyver. Anyway, this is the first season. It's finally on Blu-ray. They have restored it. It looks better than ever. All those gadgets look unbelievably fake on Blu-ray. You can tell they're made of paper mache and spit, but that's okay. It's all cool. It's just it's like the quintessential show of its era. It's, the 80s gave birth to a whole lot of wacky stuff in the 1990s, and this is one of them. And man, this was a fun show.
And there you go. First of all, great hair.
Yeah, great hair.
He had fantastic hair.
Come on, it's MacGyver, first season.
And
Blu-ray.
he is one of those guys who led several series for several years. So he went on from MacGyver to do that Stargate.
That's right.
Series, of which there are like 3 or 4 or 5, of which he executive produces or produces or pops up on all of them.
Yeah.
So he is one of the richest guys in sort of Hollywood media. It's just insane. You wouldn't think it, but this guy's worth $200 million. But it makes sense. He's been a television star, a producer, executive producer. Him and Henry Winkler did
And
all
David
that stuff.
Hasselhoff.
And David Hasselhoff for years and years and years. For 30 years, that guy has been a fixture on television.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's kind of Hey Arnold, the Ultimate Collection, the complete TV series, including 2 movies and some bonus content as well. Hey, look, I'm a big fan of Hey Arnold. A lot of fun. Did Hero too old for her?
She's never seen it. Never seen it.
No. Anyway, this is fantastic. If you love Hey Arnold, you're gonna want to check this out. I find that you can sort of mark the age of kids or the age of people from what cartoons and what series sort of came into their lives. And I know a lot of 20-somethings who are big Hey Arnold fans.
Yeah, for
sure. Check that out.
We also have Sacha Baron Cohen, Who is America, with deleted and extended scenes. This is, for anybody that likes the Sacha Baron Cohen kind of guerrilla approach to snookering people. I'm kind of amazed that people don't know who he is now. Whatever disguise he puts on, like, honestly, I kid you not, if Sacha Baron Cohen had 18 inches of latex makeup on and were doing any kind of a phony accent, I'd still know who it was.
Yeah.
You're not fooling me. I've met the guy. I mean, come on. Who's so disconnected that they allow themselves to be fooled by him into doing any kind of a shtick? Anyway, this show really has. It kind of it had a little bit of heat for a moment because he went and found a whole bunch of people and he pulled these practical jokes on a lot of public figures, Joe Arpaio and a lot of others, and humiliated them. And it's funny in a wacky kind of a reverse candid camera way. But it's simmered down a little bit. Still, Who is America? It's funny. It's intermittently funny. It's not genius all the way through, but it's what he does, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will really enjoy it. It'll be a nice gift to find in your stocking.
The other guy who has led a number of series on American television, on television, and is also one of the richest guys in Hollywood that you wouldn't think of, is Scott Bakula.
There he is.
Starting with the original Quantum Leap series, which I have in my hand right here, the complete series, Quantum Leap. Aside from the fact that my wife is in an episode of Quantum Leap, it's really fantastic. Otherwise, get this though. Imagine this. It's 1980, whenever this series started, 85, I think, right? And you go picture a show. It's about a guy who's a time traveler, and he leaps back in time into other people's bodies so that he can set right what once went wrong. And he's got this holographic guy from his time period talking to him. How the hell do you pitch that? And even if you do figure out a way, who greenlights it? Well, these people did, and it was actually a pretty good series. This was on for 5 years. It's kind of a neat show.
Totally.
You got to figure that whoever who EP'd that, was that like a Larson production or something? I don't even know who that was.
I can't remember.
He must have had a track record. No. Who's the showrunner for who
Quantum
created
Leap?
Quantum Leap? It's like a Glenn Larson
I'll
thing
look it up.
because you got to figure that's the type of show where if the showrunner has a previous track record, any stupid idea that tumbles out of his butt, it will get greenlit by the audience.
Don Belisario.
So Don Belisario, who had
Was Glenn Larson's partner.
other shows before Quantum Leap, he has earned the cachet to walk into a network executive's office and say, "Here's an idea." Guy goes time traveling to other people, and then there's another guy he time travels too. And I don't know what you're talking about, but you know what? You've earned your right to roll. You've earned your right to do something ridiculous that may not work. So let's just do it. And it winds up being Quantum Leap. Now, Knight Rider is also
That's a Glenn Larson deal.
Glenn Larson deal. That's
Yeah.
Milton, also from Mill Creek. Same people who are bringing you this Quantum Leap situation. Knight Rider. I was never a big fan of Knight Rider. I did not have a model of the car. I didn't want to be David Hasselhoff. All I know is that there was Knight Rider, which is 82 to 86, not even that long. Then there was like Team Knight Rider, which lasted for only I think a season.
There was a team Knight Rider?
There was a Team Knight
Was there
Rider.
really?
Yes, 97, 98.
Holy cow.
And look, it's about here's the thing. Back then, you could have cars that have crazy technology, and you're like, "Ooh, that's amazing." In 2018, what car would have crazy technology that would make a 17-year-old go, "Ooh, that's amazing"? Like Speed Racer had an amazing car that made us go, "Oh my God, what an amazing car!" The Mach 5. But what kind of car in 2018 would make your typical 17-year-old TV viewer go, "Oh my God, that's an amazing car"?
Trans Am.
Yeah, but it has to have some futuristic thing.
Trans Am.
See, we love the Knight
Trans Am
Rider.
with a Cylon eye.
We love the Knight Rider because it was futuristic and all sorts of dials and buttons and gadgets.
And HAL 9000 computer inside that talked like the guy on St. Elsewhere.
Douglas Rain died.
I know.
I know it was lame.
Yeah, we've had a lot. Who else just died? Somebody just died.
Douglas being the voice of the HAL.
Yeah. Douglas Rain, the voice of HAL. No, somebody else just died recently, just like yesterday or the day before or something. Roy Clark died. That's right. Yeah, it's been a rough week with the fires and everything else.
My career died.
Yeah. Well.
My career died in 1998.
We also have Community, the complete series. The thing about Community, which was a cute show. It sort of came of age with the Office, right? It was the same kind of a thing, sort of that ensemble, and picked a workplace and very eccentric. But you look at the people that graduated from this show. I mean, forget about it. Chevy Chase was a foot in the past with Community. But the other people who graduated from Community, it's unbelievable. Donald Glover was on Community. Joel McHale, who eventually went on to do Talk Soup, which Mark used to produce.
Many years ago, not Joel's iteration.
Yeah, but Joel would, he was he inherited the mantle of Talk Soup. John Oliver. It's amazing all the people that were on this show. You forget Keith David, Paget Brewster. Really an amazing cast. You look at this, you go, wow, a lot of people really came out of that show. It's kind of amazing. So anyway, that's all 6 seasons of Community on Blu-ray, and anybody who loved this show, you will love a Blu-ray complete set of Community.
Star Trek Discovery, which was on the CBS web portal. I think it's called CBS Access, right? So this series, Star Trek Discovery, is set 10 years before the events of Captain Kirk's Enterprise.
Yeah,
but I think the series, the Scott Bakula series, Enterprise, is set 100 years,
something like that,
before.
It's getting the
warp drive ship or something. Wasn't it?
That was Bakula. His dad. Look at me. I'm so nerdy. His dad invented the warp drive. It's just something like a warp drive. So that's where that was set. And then I guess we get to this. It would be this in between. The thing that I try to do sometimes with all of the Star Trek stuff is to put them all in some sort of an order. When are these things happening?
Yeah.
And how do they overlap? And then once you do that, it's because see the technology in this series is incorrect.
There's a book that came out around the time of like Star Trek 3 or 2, Wrath of Khan, something like that, called the Star Trek Spaceflight Chronology, which some people put a lot of work into to invent a history that brought you from the current day all the way up to the century in which Star Trek takes place, 23rd century, right? Mm-hmm. So they put a lot of work into that. And then these morons come along and basically just discard the whole thing.
Yeah, throw it all out.
Look, the nerds know the books. Adhere to the books, please.
Yeah. What I do like about this is the cast. I like the cast quite a lot, but the technology doesn't make any sense in the series.
No.
What I find interesting is how CBS Access, which seemed like a dud out of the gate, they are making a meal out of Star Trek. They've got Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
They've got Star Trek Short Takes, which
But Michelle
is
Yeoh's not on it anymore. They took her
she's
off.
no. It's supposedly they're going to bring her back in another spinoff. So they have Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Short Takes, right? Which are
She's going to be an Oscar nominee now. She's likely to be an Oscar nominee for Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah.
Then they're also going to have a Star Trek animated show on CBS Access, and CBS Access is bringing back Twilight Zone. So it seems like CBS Access might wind up being, begrudgingly, you have to admit, probably the most successful of these spin-offy things of the networks.
Yeah.
No one cares about Fox Access or NBC Access or ABC Access, whatever they have going.
Yeah.
But CBS Access, they launched that thing on the back of Discovery. I think the show is it's just not my Star Trek. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But they're spinning it off for at least 3 different ways, if not 4, and they're doing Twilight Zone. So CBS Access might have actually cracked the code.
Well, you know what else cracks the code? Rescue Me, the complete series.
Oh God! Seriously, who's going to buy that?
You know what? It's really good. It's a
I'm
good
sure
show.
it is, but who cares?
It's a great show.
No one cares.
No, seriously, Rescue Me, the complete series on Blu-ray. Long overdue. This is terrific. Lots of featurettes, bloopers, deleted scenes, select commentaries, the whole thing. Dennis Leary, everybody forgets, was a really raw, neurotic, chain-smoking, completely heavily caffeinated comic who did shtick on MTV for a long time. Yeah. And then he became a very serious actor and producer with Rescue Me, which was a show that he basically conceived to honor firefighters in the wake of 9/11. And it's, you know what? It's a really tight show. If you've never seen it, it's not like all the rest of it's not like Emergency. It's not like Chicago Fire. It's not like all of the other fireman shows. It's not even like Backdraft, if you look at the movie. It really is, it's about the people. It's not about the job. It's about family. It's about a particular mentality. It's just a really, really impressive show. It's very well written. Has not gotten enough credit over the years. And it is out in a complete set. And Rescue Me on Blu-ray is one of the really bright spots of the season on Blu-ray.
Let's see. I got over here the complete series, That 70s Show, which suddenly reminds me that we ran into.
That's what I was going to say at the BlacKkKlansman event.
Topher.
Yeah, Topher Grace
at the BlacKkKlansman because he plays David Duke in BlacKkKlansman.
And really funny.
Very funny portrayal of 1970s young and even more clueless David Duke. And this show, one of the reasons why I love That 70s Show, despite the fact that it's a series from the 90s, is that it is in fact set in the 70s with these teenagers. And of course, I was a teenager, exactly the same age as all of these kids in the 70s. So, I mean, this show to me was like, going, it's just so ridiculous to close. It was Kurtwood Smith. I want to point out, a whole bunch of wonderful young people came out of this show. Obviously, Topher and all the young people. Kurtwood Smith was just one of the funniest things on the planet in this show. He had lines of dialogue. First of all, I know my father said many times to me and to my stupid friends, who were all just as moronic as all of his son's friends at his house. We would hang out in my garage, and my father would come out. We would play my father's drums. And he would come out there and say, "None of you are drummers. You're all horrible. You're just all terrible." But he got us all guitars, and anyway, so we still had a band. Anyway, this is a really, really, really great series that I loved. 8 seasons, 200 episodes. 200 episodes?
Yeah. It's a good thing it didn't run more than 10 seasons, because then it couldn't be the 70s show anymore. Then it would have had to become the 80s show.
And I think there was one.
They tried that.
Oh,
did they?
Okay, yeah,
No.
did like a different thing. I thought so. Anyway, this is a lot of fun. All kinds of bonus features on here. The complete collection, That 70s Show, the complete series, all 8 seasons on 24 DVDs, folks.
Fantastic.
So, it'll take a decade just to get through all this.
Then we've also got Rocko's Modern Life, the complete series from Nickelodeon. Not exactly my style of animation, but it does come out of that Ren and Stimpy-ish, highly stylized, very loose world where things are so grotesque and misshapen that it takes you at least half the season to figure out what animals they are. I mean, did anybody ever know that Ren and Stimpy was a dog and cat? Seriously, how many people saw every episode of that and just said, "I don't know what those things are"? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Rocco's Modern Life, pretty funny. I'm not going to show it to my daughter. It's certainly not appropriate for her, but this is 8 discs, and it'll give you a little bit of a trip with this weird show. There are some very, very funny episodes on here. Sand in Your Navel is one of the most famous ones, and I would almost recommend watching that first, because you'll get the whole style of the show immediately from watching Sand in Your Navel. Anyway, Rocco's Modern Life also comes with a collectible poster by Joe Murray. So one of the brighter spots on Nickelodeon in these last many years.
I have Scorpion, the complete series. I did not know that this series, Scorpion, which is a series about these sort of geniuses, all led by a sort of central genius and an FBI guy, to solve the more complicated sort of espionage international crimes of the world. And, they're all quirky and this, that, and the other thing. I kind of hate this show. I always did, this series. But I did not know it was based on a guy, an actual guy.
Yeah.
The hacker guy.
Yeah.
Who was kind of a genius, and the team was sort of built around him and all that kind of stuff. So it is. But I just really never cared for the show. Nevertheless, those of you who do will enjoy the entire complete series. Let's see, 4 seasons of the show, lots of special features, including audio commentaries on several episodes, and some behind-the-scenes stuff, and a lot of deleted scene stuff, too. Gag reels and all that stuff for the television series. Scorpion, the complete series.
All right, we're going to move into some British TV now, and we got our first giveaway. We have our first giveaway. Yay! Crowd, this cue applause, cue laughter, whatever. Our first giveaway is going to be the complete collection of Detectorists. You guys seen this show?
Never heard of it.
I don't think I know that
Detectorists?
show.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's so unbelievably funny. This is from an Acorn show. This is Acorn TV. Detectorists is absolutely outrageously funny. So it stars Toby Jones and Mackenzie Crook as these weirdos who are metal. They have metal detectors. They're always looking for metal. Anyway, it's basically just a quirky buddy show. But it is absolutely hysterical. They're just such a couple of freakish losers, And they are. It's just just watching these losers, and one of them wants to be an archaeologist, and they're just looking for. They got their metal detector going, and that, of course, is a metaphor for everything else that's wrong in their lives. It is absolutely hysterical. It is really, really funny. Toby Jones continues to be such a delight as an actor. I discovered him when he was the guy who did not win an Oscar for playing Truman Capote.
He's
Remember
cool.
that?
Oh, I love Capote.
The one with Sandra Bullock.
But the other Capote film, not the Seymour Hoffman film, but the one.
Oh
that
yeah,
the other one, whatever
correct.
it was called.
He's so good.
Yeah. Was it Sandra Bullock? I can't remember.
I think she played Harper Lee in that one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, anyway, so we're going to give away 2 copies of Complete Collection of Detectorists. Send us an email, and this applies to everything. So we're going to choose our winners by November 30th. Make sure your email gets to us by November 30th. If your email has a December date on it, it's too late. So November 30th, you got a good long time to listen to the show and get in for all these things. Everybody can send us email. Send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. This goes for all the giveaways, so note this down. gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. Put, for this one, metal. Just put metal in the subject line and your name and address in the body of the email. And on November 30th, when the clock strikes midnight and December rolls around, we will pick a couple of very, very fortunate people to win the complete collection of Detectorists, which is a wonderful box set from Acorn. Moving on.
Got some more British television over there.
Got some more British stuff. Tim, I'll let you.
Well, the Benedict Cumberbatch, Martin Freeman Sherlock, the complete series, which I watched like a year, because what they would do is they would run these on BBC America, because I don't have cable. So I would watch them on BBC America, about a year behind everybody else who was actually watching them in real time on cable. So I had to not talk to people all the time about what the hell was going on this show. And it's really, really good. This is my favorite work of Benedict Cumberbatch, his interpretation of Sherlock. It was very cleverly done. I love the way they used the graphic designs and everything in the show. I love the way they made Martin Freeman not a bumbling idiot. and really gave him a through line and a backstory. It was just really, really neat, this particular version of Sherlock. This is the complete series. The show includes hours of bonus content, but it doesn't say what it is. So, but yeah, what the heck, there it is.
We also have a really interesting thing called Killing Eve, which was a BBC production, got a couple of Emmy nominations. Really, really, really very interesting, and some terrific performances. And this is kind of, I don't know, if this had been made, maybe 70 years ago or something like that, it would have been with Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. That's the kind of movie that it would have been. But as it is now, we get some completely different collection of actresses. We get Sandra Oh and Jodie Comer, who are just as good in many respects. So you've got one who is a kind of a security operative who just works basically a wage slave job and wants to be a spy. And then you have the other one who is actually kind of a hit woman, assassin of sorts. And this becomes a how do you put it? It's sort of like it's not cat and mouse. It's more just it's one of those kind of psychological, I guess, a psychological version of the Prince and the Pauper, maybe. Does that make sense? Mark's snorting at me. No?
Makes no sense.
Okay, never
I've
mind.
never seen the show. I can't.
Anyway, so Killing Eve, really, really good production, BBC production. It's on Blu-ray, and add it for people who like kind of psychological thrillers and BBC fare. It's really good. Sandra Oh is great, by the way, and she got it. She's still at it. She got an Oscar nomination. She's been an Emmy nominee. She's a great actress. Keep her going.
Outstanding. Thank you for letting me do the Doctor Who's. Everybody who listens to this show knows I'm quite ridiculous about Doctor Who. The female Doctor Who series, which is going right now, it's very good. It's very good. Some very, very clever stuff. She's her Doctor Who is very much in the mode of my favorite Doctor, who would be Tom Baker, who would have been the fourth Doctor, I think, from the 70s, middle 70s Doctor. That's my guy. And she's doing an interpretation that sort of harkens back to him. Here we have Matt Smith's Doctor Who, the complete series, which is really neat. Played opposite Karen Gilligan. The Doctor always has these companions that he goes around doing stuff with. They're usually, but not always, women, and sometimes women and men, but very often they're women. And one of the things I love about Doctor Who is the way they sort of enfranchise all of these women, particularly in the modern series of Doctor Who. But this is true. This was true going all the way back. To all the Doctor Who's. It was one of the first sort of sci-fi shows. The Doctor was the Doctor, but he always needed his companion to help him, and they were always sharp and very funny. So very funny. So this is Karen Gilligan, 30 hours, 45 episodes, and a free comic. Then we have the Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant crossover of Doctor Who's, which is also quite good. Loved both of these guys as Doctor Who. Tennant's Doctor Who was a very serious guy. He's probably the most serious Doctor Who since maybe John Pertwee played Doctor Who. I think he was the third Doctor right before.
Yeah.
It was, he was sort of in that mode of the Doctor. Also on the show with them, you had Billy Piper and Freema Abigail, who were the Doctor's companions. Jenna Coleman pops up eventually. And then we have the most recent Doctor Who up until our new one with the lady, Peter Capaldi's series of Doctor Who. Peter was great too.
Peter was great.
Kind of a rock and roll Doctor Who. And one of the things I loved about this one is the Doctor got old again. The Doctor began as an old man. And they played with that a lot in this series. The fact that when he came back this time, because he had been a young, handsome, strapping guy running around and stuff like that, and he gets back this time, he's like, hey, like, what the hell's going on here? And Jenna Coleman played opposite him and Pearl Mac, and they sort of poked him about how old he was. And he's like, if you think I look old, how old I actually am, because the Doctor's 900 years old. So good stuff, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, the oldest continuous franchise of any kind in the world, and always will be. It's never going away. 150 years from now, there will be a new Doctor.
Now, though it took them 60 years to get to a female Doctor Who, and that was one of the ones that I because me, I usually don't care about this kind of the Black James Bond and Black Robin, Batman, and all the I don't need a Black James Bond. Just James Bond's a white dude. That's fine. You can have it. But Doctor Who, the whole point of him is that he regenerated those lives. There's no reason for him not to come back as a woman. So it didn't make any sense.
could he be? But the thing is, every Doctor Who has been British.
Yeah.
Could Doctor Who come back as, like, let's say, a Ukrainian or a Nigerian who doesn't even speak English? That would throw people for a loop.
Yeah, maybe an
No.
Aussie. I could go for an Aussie Doctor Who, but that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. Yeah.
All right. We've also got Merlin, The Adventures of Merlin, the complete series, also from BBC, with bonus features and fridge magnets. Now, I'm not overly a fan of this incarnation of Merlin. I love Excalibur as a movie. Any other versions of anything from the Arthurian legends I'm not particularly fond of. But you know what? It has a following. People love this thing. It ran for a good long time, and this is a lovely, lovely box set. It's got all the original bonus features, the commentaries, and the video diaries, and all that stuff. And it has the fridge magnets. So look, I mean, young Merlin. It's the thing that we're doing now, right? Everything is the young something or the prequel to something. So all of our origin stories, Gotham and everything else, it's in that same vein. But anyway, the Adventures of Merlin, certainly still top tier BBC. So not my particular version of it, but I respect what they were doing.
Let's see, this would be the complete series for Orphan Black. Tatiana Maslany, who played several different versions of her own clone in this series. She's just astounding in this series. This actress. I think
she was never nominated for an Emmy, or was she nominated?
Who?
Tatiana Maslany.
Yes, she was, for sure.
She was. Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just astounding. And all these different characters, versions of it's about a cloning program, super secret agents, all the stuff going on in the background. And the premiere episode of this show has a really fantastic opening scene. Shocking and very powerful. And I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but even if you only watched just the premiere episode of this, you would really love the setup of Orphan Black. You should check it out. And her work is just fantastic in the show. And it's funny too. It's a really, really funny show. Anyway, the complete set, not a lot of special features. Not a lot of special features. You'd think they do like a audio commentary or something about the creating of. I guess they'll do it the next time they release it. Orphan Black, the complete series.
And then we got a couple of shows that start with V, and that's the only thing they have in common. Victoria, the complete second season is out, and you can still get the first season as well in a box set. Victoria and the complete seasons 1 and 2, which is the show. It's on PBS. It's about Queen Victoria, the whole deal. And it's a really, really good show. I don't think it's as good as The Crown. I like it. I recommend it, but it's certainly not top tier. But Jenna Coleman is absolutely fantastic as Queen Victoria. Tom Hughes is also very, very good, and Rufus Sewell in the first season is also quite good. So that's on Blu-ray. And then we also have Brenda Blethyn as Vera, the sets 1 through 7 collection. Brenda Blethyn, just an absolutely brilliant actress. And one of the best detectives that they've ever had on a British show. The complete set of Vera, sets 1 through 7. Also from ITV, the people who do Downton Abbey. And this is from RLJ, the Acorn people. So Vera, sets 1 through 7. And we now have some more giveaways.
A lot of stuff here.
So we're doing 3 giveaways from Wellgo. And they are all very, very different shows. So Wellgo has given us 3 really interesting Hong Kong films, Chinese films, Hong Kong films, both. The first one is Detective D, The Four Heavenly Kings. Now, this is the third of the Detective D movies, and Detective D is kind of like a medieval Chinese Sherlock Holmes figure. And they've made a number of these. Choi Hak, the famous Vietnamese-born Hong Kong director and producer, guy produced The Killer and a lot of early John Woo movies. These are his brainchild. They are just massively loaded with CGI and all kinds of funky stuff. It's kind of like if Indiana Jones and Sherlock Holmes were wrapped into the same person. Anyway, these things have gotten progressively sillier as they've gone along, but Detective D, The Four Heavenly Kings is pretty darn spectacular and rivals any Hollywood movie in terms of action and special effects. We've got 3 of these to give away. Just send us the email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. and put D-E-E, in the subject line, and you will be chosen by November 30th for one of our 3 sets of Detective D and the Four Heavenly Kings on Blu-ray with lots of fun goings-on in them. The others include Believer, which is a lot more gritty and tough and suspenseful. Believer is more kind of hard-boiled cop stuff. This is an adaptation of Drug War, which is the Johnny Toe film. It's just a heavy action. We've got 3 of these to give away. Send us an email with Believer in the line, the subject line, and then the last one is Girls versus Gangsters and Mike Tyson.
Mike, look at Mike in the corner.
It's just so ridiculous. Mike Tyson's doing nothing but making Chinese movies these days. It's ridiculous. Sometimes he's good in them, but sometimes he's just absolutely horrible.
Did you see that thing with him and
And
Steven
Seagal, it was the worst.
The best ever.
It was the worst.
It was horrible.
It was so. It was dreadful.
It was dreadfully dreadful, but it was so good.
Oh no, it was truly terrible. Anyway, so Girls versus Gangsters. Look, Ivy Chen, Fiona Sit, and Ning Chang, and Mike Tyson. Look, it's three really absolutely adorable, hilarious girls and Mike Tyson. I don't know what else to tell you. There's just nothing else going on here. It's comical. It's silly. We got 3 Blu-rays, 3 DVDs to give away. So send us an email that says Tyson in the subject line, and you will be entered to win one of our 3 copies of Girls vs. Gangsters and Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. Crazy. All right. So now we're going to go through our 4Ks. A lot of which we've talked about previously, and these are the Ace Blu-ray, the Ace 4K Blu-rays of the season. Whittled it down to the essentials, and we'll all just kind of roll through them real quickly. I'm still going to recommend Solo, even though I have problems with the film. It's a gorgeous 4K. It's going to show off your whole 4K system beautifully. And I am kind of hoping that they finish off the franchise. It suggests other movies. I haven't heard the next Solo announced. Do we know if are they going to make a second Solo? Are they going to fulfill that whole thing that they teased at the end?
No, Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, they had to go back and really decide what to do with this thing, because they obviously they thought that the appetite for Star Wars was so insatiable that people will line up by the trillions to see any goddamn Star Wars thing tumbled out of their ass. Well, you know what? Solo proved that's not true. So the Boba Fett spinoff, forget that. Solo, sequel, forget that. They've got to hunker down and decide how they want to move forward. And they're moving forward partially, like CBS All Access. They're hunkering down with the Disney streaming.
Nah.
They're going to do The Mandalorian, and they'll do some other Star Wars thing.
See, I think they're going to have to figure it out. But anyway, I kind of want to see the rest of the story of Solo. I mean, even whether it's 1 film or 2 films, I kind of want them to continue it. Anyway, it is a good 4K. And also, I really, really like what they did with Ant-Man and the Wasp. I love those movies. I think those are fun. I think
those are the better ones of the universe.
They really are.
Because they're fun. They're not too self-serious, too self-important. And Paul Rudd is actually, kind of a neat sort of leading man kind of guy.
And I'm also going to recommend for 4K gifts that you cannot do better than Deadpool. I just think Deadpool 2 is so fun. It's better than the first movie in many, many respects. And it's got other characters in it who are just absolutely. I mean, Domino just rocks this movie. What a wonderful surprise she is. She's fantastic, and that's why when you look at this, when you look at the cover, she is on top. She's on top of Deadpool.
Yeah, look, the movie's called Deadpool, but like a few other films lately, it's the ladies who are actually the heroes of the movie.
Like Mad Max, right?
In Black Panther.
Yeah.
The movie's called Black Panther. You know what? If his sister and his mom and his girlfriends and the black general girl don't come save his ass 20 minutes, every 20 minutes, one of those chicks is saving his ass in that movie, which I thought was fantastic, by the way. Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. Man, it's been 20-some-odd years since, it's been close to 30 years since we lost Jim.
Yeah.
I think. Anyway, 1982, Jim and Frank Oz, of course, The Dark Crystal. Look, this was, they don't make them like this. They don't make these kinds of things with giant puppets and whatnot. Today, this would be, it would be mostly CGI today. maybe some kind of an animatronic something or other. But it wouldn't be a bunch of dudes inside, puppets with, moving the eyeballs and another guy, doing the tail. It wouldn't be that today, that's for sure. And I really love this movie. Packed full of all kinds of special bonus feature stuff, deleted scenes, commentary with Brian Fowl, the storyboard, a language, that whole language little thing. Yeah. They got a whole little language thing in there. It's really, really, really neat. Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. Man, I miss that guy.
We also have the Jack Ryan 5-film collection. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I won't belabor it anymore, but you get The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Sum of All Fears, Clear and Present Danger, and Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, directed by Kenneth Branagh, of all people. And, of all the Jack Ryans, look, sorry, Harrison Ford still owns it, but, you got Ben Affleck and all the rest of them. It's a fun franchise. Not all the films are great, but if you love the Jack Ryan films, or if somebody that does, this is a great 4K collection.
We also have X-Men 3-film collection. This is the first 3 X-Men films in 4K, and I have to admit, you have to give Fox credit for the X-Men series. I have to say that they always seemed a little more adult and a little more sophisticated, at least thematically, than all the Marvel stuff. The first 2, X-Men and X-Men United, were directed by Bryan Singer, and then came Brett Ratner for X-Men: The Last Stand, and he just ruined everything, didn't he? Like he always does. And X-Men: Last Stand is definitely not good. X-Men is terrific, although I remember when that film came out, which, by the way, that thing came out in 2000. This series is 18 years old. Yeah. When it came out, I remember thinking, this movie's only an hour and 45 minutes. Like, how can you tell an origin film with all those characters in an hour and 45 minutes? And the answer is you really can't.
You can't.
So the movie always felt as if it was somehow compromised somewhere in the editing stage, whatever it was. But X-Men 2 was great. And then, of course, X-Men 3 happened, and that derailed the series for a while. But if you love the X-Men and you're an X-Men completist, they look great. Audio commentary on all 3 films. Not much in the way of extras that we haven't seen before, but still you're buying the 4K. And that's X-Men 3-film collection.
We have sung the praises of Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman, which is going to be an Oscar contender, and we got one to give away. BlacKkKlansman on 4K. That is courtesy of the good people at Universal. Go ahead and send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com, and in the subject line, just put black. And you will, by November 30th, one person will win a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray of BlacKkKlansman, just in time to watch what everybody's going so nuts about. But it is one of the films of the season. It will definitely be in the mix for Oscars and awards.
Top 10 for me. By the way, I'm glad you didn't say, put in the subject line Klansman. Because you're going to get hundreds of emails that say Klansman, and people start wondering about you.
The FBI comes looking around.
Yeah, NSA.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing here? 20-year commemorative anniversary release, 4K Ultra HD of Steven Spielberg's film Saving Private Ryan, 1998. This was, man. I was just looking at the credit list here for this movie. So I'm not that we don't know all these people, but sometimes it's amazing what one movie can do. For a whole bunch of careers. So obviously Tom Hanks, Tom Sizemore, Edward Burns, Barry Pepper, Adam Goldberg, Vin Diesel. This movie pretty much gave us Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Jeremy Davies, Matt Damon, Ted Danson, Paul Giamatti, Dennis Farina. This is just so wow, just a hell of an accomplishment there. The movie itself, in terms of big war films, holds up. That opening sequence is, that's in the Thin Red Line. Now, the thing of it is, this movie came out the same year, right at the same time as Thin Red Line. I actually prefer the Thin Red Line.
A lot of people do.
Oh yeah, I do too.
But this, this is a Spielberg film. That's a Malick film, and frankly, it's sort of a, if you're wondering what the difference between Spielberg and Malick is, it's in these 2 films.
Yeah, for sure.
It's between those 2 films. This is packed full of all kinds of stuff. So if you can't go wrong. 3 discs on Blu-ray, just everything you can think of. And that score by John Williams.
By the way, that film really was, when you think about it, that was the pinnacle, the top moment of Harvey Weinstein's power.
It kind of was. You're
But
right.
Look how that
Yeah.
film was just going to win. Ryan was
Yeah.
going to win Best Picture, no doubt about
And then
it.
Shakespeare in Love
And then Shakespeare in Love
pulled the rug out from under it.
Pulled the rug out. Some not forgettable. It's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's like
Yeah,
it was.
I hear
It was
you.
not its year. But that really was the ultimate exercise of Harvey's power.
Well, let me tell you, we got of all the 4Ks coming out this season, this is the one gift set that just goes completely bananas. Now, if you're a fan of the dude, hey man, we're anarchists. No, we're nihilists. Nihilists. We're the nihilists. Okay. If look, The Big Lebowski, terrific film. Just an absolutely terrific film. One of the best Coen brother movies of all time. That dream sequence still just puts me in stitches. That Busby Berkeley style thing that he does with the dance and the tool belt. Can't get enough of that.
Because we've been talking about the Battle of Buster Scruggs for the
which
last couple. People will be talking about it again.
Yeah.
In the mode.
It's in the mode.
Yeah.
But if you really want to go nuts, and I do not roll on Shabbat. I mean, there's so many great lines here. Don't mess with the Jesus, man.
For a while there, the Farrelly brothers and the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
They had this sort of thing going back and forth. Movies like Kingpin and whatnot from over there with the Farrellys and Something About Mary. And then the Coens had these. The Coens were always a little bit darker, although Kingpin's pretty dark now. But there was just like a wit and sharpness and outlandish sort of circumstances. They handled it better than anybody else. The Farrellys kind of fell off.
They did a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Well,
Peter Farrelly directed Green Book.
That's right. Green Book. Peter Farrelly's trying to go legit this season, so we'll see how Green Book fares. But it certainly won the Audience Award at Toronto, so that means something. That usually is a harbinger of Oscar glory. In any case, the Blu-ray has a bunch of extras on it. Featurettes mostly, making of stuff, Dude's Life, Lebowski Fest. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff here. But let me tell you, if you really want to go nuts, you get this. This is what you get. You get the 4K Big Lebowski 20th anniversary limited edition with the bowling ball bag.
It's a big ass box.
Come on, it's ridiculous. It's a huge freaking box with the bowling ball bag in it, and you even get a kind of a makeshift bowling ball, and you get a bowling shirt, and you do the whole thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why would you want this? I don't know, but somebody clearly does.
You know what? I still have my Big Lebowski DVD special edition, which was packaged similarly, but it had a little plastic bowling ball.
Yeah, well, this doesn't. This is like a full-size bowling ball bag.
It really is. That thing's big enough to hold a bag.
It's the whole 9 yards. Look at this thing. It's fantastic. So anyway, if you want to really, really go to town on somebody, and if you know somebody who really loves this movie, that's what you get them.
Oh, I got The Shape of Water here. I got nominated for 13 Academy Awards. Guillermo del Toro, of course, Sally Hawkins. And I got to tell you, this movie, while I appreciated it at the time, tried to watch it, tried to popped it in, tried to watch it, couldn't get through 10 minutes of it. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. But nevertheless, for those who do love it, this is packed full of all kinds of special features again. You got fairy tales, anatomy of a scene, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. So I don't know. If you still like it, give it a go. The original Superman, the movie?
Yes, on 4K.
I love this movie. This is still my favorite Superman movie.
Well, and then I'll give it back to Tim. But to me, Superman and Star Wars were the two films of our generation that activated all of these future filmmakers. They were the two. People saw Superman and just it had such a charm, but was still exciting. And people, and even now, because it's funny how everybody who was so influenced by that film, all the superhero films today still cannot match that mix of charm and excitement that the original Superman had. And it's sad because a lot of people who direct those new superhero films were influenced by Superman.
No CGI.
Yeah.
Remember, you'll believe a man can fly. That's right.
When you see Christopher Reeve flying in this movie, they strap that homie into a thingy and a crane, and they're swinging his ass around the sky, 100 feet up in the sky. That's what Chris did. This Christopher Reeve did, and there it is. It was Christopher Reeve, I think it's the thing.
Yeah,
Christopher Reeve. Somehow he embodied not just the physical, this with the hair and all that kind of stuff of Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah.
he made us believe it. When you bought it, and I got to tell you, Margot Kidder, what wonderful casting.
Yeah.
But she was just so delightful as Lois Lane in this movie. And then you have Ned Beatty.
Oh my gosh.
And casting
Hackman.
against type, Hackman casting against type, going with Hackman.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought Gene Hackman? But just fantastic stuff, man.
And Dick Donner and the John Williams music, it all came together.
Commentary tracks on here from a few executive producers, the Salkins and whatnot. Fantastic, Superman.
That movie, I remember seeing that movie, and the opening credits come, and the fanfare begins, and it's the first film to this day I've ever seen where the opening credits, when they were over, got an applause from the audience.
It's true.
Because at the time, because obviously if God had a theme, it would be the Superman theme from John Williams, and also the opening credits with the 3D with the letters and words coming out at you. It got an applause when it was over. I still have not seen that to this day again.
So we have a couple of legendary franchises too, also on 4K. All three First Blood Rambo movies are out on 4K. And it's interesting watching them again. So the original First Blood is a real movie. It's a real movie about a real guy who was messed up from Vietnam, and Stallone is really acting, and it's based on an actual novel, and it looks really good on 4K. They've done a really good job kind of preserving the grit and the darkness of it. And then we get to Rambo, First Blood Part 2, which was Rambo 2 in some places for some reason, even though there was never a Rambo 1. Anyway, Rambo First Blood Part 2 is just a ridiculous movie. He's now not that guy anymore. Now he's just a killing machine, and he's just going to wipe people out, and he just shoots. And
Well, look at the Rocky films.
I know.
Stallone starts out with these great intentions where he makes real movies, and then slowly with each successive sequel, it just becomes just a big dumb lug.
And then this is where it gets confusing. So Rambo 3. So you go from First Blood to Rambo First Blood Part 2 to what should be Rambo 2 First Blood Part 3. But it's not. It's Rambo 3, which never made any sense. And that's why in some places Rambo was called Rambo 2, because retroactively they're trying not to confuse people. But still, Rambo 3, anyway.
By the time we were there, I think the war in Afghanistan was,
Yes.
and that's the whole thing there.
That's the whole thing. The Russians were in Afghanistan, and so Stallone's got to put on his bow and arrow and go and fight. Yeah. Mark's giving us the thumbs down. Anyway, Rambo 3 is a really terrible movie. But if you like the franchise, all three are on 4K, and it's a really interesting progression. It really is. From one film to the next to the other, it's really fascinating.
By the way, can I say something?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, will be outdated by the time this podcast posts. But I'm going to say it anyway. Did anybody get a screening invite to Creed 2?
No. And it opens next week.
Yeah. Did not get an invite.
I know.
And I think Todd Gilchrist saw it.
Yeah, he did. He's the only one.
He said it was okay.
Yeah, he said. Well, I think he said he preferred the first one, but this one's still really good.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I now return you to our regularly scheduled podcast.
And then the other one is the Matrix trilogy on 4K, which also, like most everything else that we've been talking about, has Movies Anywhere code on it. This is just way too much Matrix. Look, I love the original Matrix. The next two, just can't get with it.
Okay.
I can't.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So I'm in Los Angeles for a few months now to work, right?
Sure.
The people I'm staying with last week,
We're watching The Matrix.
because their children had never seen it. So I rewatched The Matrix for the
Okay.
first time in many years.
Yeah.
The original Matrix totally holds up.
Totally holds
It's
up.
great.
It's fantastic.
The other two, which are dreadful.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know why they made them. I don't.
Well,
I know
remember
why
when they
made
shot them?
money.
Remember how they shot them back to back?
Yeah.
And that was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
now everybody does that. Yeah.
They would have been better off not doing that, because they if they would have saved the production of 3, they could have corrected the mistakes that they made in 2.
True.
But they were stuck with the mistakes that they made because they shot them back to back.
Well, the most interesting thing here on The Matrix is the commentary with Cornel West and Ken Wilber. There's also a critics commentary with our good friends Todd McCarthy and John Powers, along with David Thompson. So, I mean, there's some very interesting stuff on here that's worth checking out. Again, I love the first film. We all love the first film. Don't like the next two, but it's still an interesting trilogy. It is a trilogy. If you know somebody that's nuts for it, it's a great box set.
They got bigger, but they did not get better, those movies.
No.
Just bigger, not better. I had forgotten completely that Wolfgang Peterson directed Air Force One.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just popped out of my head.
You know who loves Air Force One? You know who loved it at the time? Mark's mom.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You used to tell me that. You used to say your mom loves only one kind of movie, any movie where Harrison Ford is saving the world.
It's horrible. And then what the funny thing is that my mother, towards the end, right? She actually, this is years before my mother died, but what I remember, she loved Harrison Ford so much, and then I got her out of the house all the way across town, which for her was like going to Timbuktu to see the screening of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, you bet.
Right? And I thought, Ma, if anything will get you out of the house and out of Santa Monica and all the way across town to Paramount, it's going to be Harrison Ford. And by the way, and how much do we love that Paramount main theater? Yeah. I love that theater. So I took my mother all the way across town, 15 miles to go from Santa Monica to Paramount. We see that movie. It was so horrible that I think that film actually might have killed her. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'll put my best people on that, but I think it might have killed her.
Well, Air Force One. Look, Wolfgang withstanding. I did not care for this movie. This was sort of like, to me, it was like cheap Clancy. You know what I mean? It's I don't know, whatever. It's Gary Oldman. I remember Gary Oldman sort of chewing the scenery in this movie.
Get off my plane.
That was right. Anyway, special feature on Blu-ray and director's commentary. Wolfgang talking.
My favorite part of Gary Oldman in that was every time he said "Mother Russia." There's a lot of "Mother Russia." There's a lot of that stuff. You know what's really rocking on 4K right now? Most recently, last weekend, this week, Incredibles 2 and The Meg.
Yeah,
totally opposite movies.
Are people going to be talking about Incredibles 2 for animation?
I will. That's my number one choice right now. I love this movie.
Great script. Great. I love it too. Great script, but I don't know that it's Oscar material.
So much fun. Look, Jack wipes me out. Yeah. My daughter was playing with a Jack figurine for weeks afterwards. Jack is the funniest thing in any movie this year. In that movie, what they do with Jack is just outrageously funny. Outrageously funny. They realized Jack was underused in the first film, and they laid the seeds at the end of that first film, and man, they just go nuts with this one. Look, it's fantastic. Edna, they're all back, and it picks up right where the first film left off, and
it's oddly sort of a girl power movie too.
It is very much so. It's back in that vein you were talking about, right in that pocket, man. Elastigirl, Mrs. Incredible, she owns this movie more than anybody else. She really does. It's fantastic. It's just a beautiful film. On 4K, lots of extras here, deleted scenes and little bits on the villains and Super Baby. So funny. The Meg, I don't know. What do you guys think about The Meg? It's basically Jaws on steroids.
You know what? I watched The Meg, and I really got into this film thinking maybe it would just be a big, dumb, fun thing like what was the Deep Blue Sea? Remember the Deep Blue Sea with Sam Jackson?
The Rennie Harlan thing. Yeah.
The Rennie Harlan thing. That was exactly what it should have been. Just a big, dumb, but it knows it's big and dumb, and it's having a good time film. The Meg just feels like this kind of this inflated B-movie international co-production that somehow is just not great.
You get your movies anywhere. And that's about all you get on here. But it's a giant shark movie. It's on 4K. Looks great. I mean, it really does. But it's.
This is a movie, folks. I'm sorry. This movie is so dumb in a number of ways. But this is the dumbest thing about it. The big giant shark movie comes and there it is. It's a giant shark and they know it's there and it's eating whole boats. It's eating everything, right? And for whatever reason, they keep deciding to leave the safety of the compound that they are in and get on a boat. We've already seen this shark eat a whole boat.
Yeah.
And let's get on a boat. Let's get out of here. Let's get on a boat. No. Don't get on a boat.
It's just in a boat. So let's get on a smaller boat.
Yeah, let's get on a smaller boat. No, it's just the dumbest thing in the world. And then it gets into that whole sort of Jaws sequence. All the people at the... and I don't know. It's just...
See, here's the thing. To me, there's a difference between a film that knows it's being dumb and says, just come with us and have a good time, versus a film that's just dumb.
Yeah.
Deep Blue Sea was a film that knew it was being dumb, but said, come with us, have a good time, let's just have a laugh.
Yeah.
And in that context, you can get into it. But The Meg was just sort of dumb.
Yeah.
And I rejected it outright, Wade.
Okay,
I hate this film.
I'm good.
I'm going to kill this film. Wade, did I ever tell you my theory about what I want to do in
Sure.
some of these Marvel films?
Go ahead.
Okay, actually, I think I told you this. Okay, the next time there's a Marvel film, I'm going to sit in the audience for the whole credits, right? Which you have to do anyway for the super secret thing. So, next Marvel film, I'm going to sit through the end credits. And you know how somewhere in the end credits, there is an enormous block of names for the hundreds upon hundreds of technical visual special effects people who worked on this film. And it is a block of names that scrolls for like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have decided that the next Marvel film, I am going to sit through that entire block of names, pick one name out and kill them.
Okay.
Why not? You can probably Facebook him. I'm going to find that person, and I'm just going to seek him out on Facebook or public records and kill them.
FBI.
I mean, why not? Just something I'd like to do.
Okay.
They have it coming. They have it coming.
That's right.
All right. Fair enough.
Coco.
Coco.
Don't you have like 5 interviews for this show? How long is this show?
It'll go till it goes. We have an interview. We're going to do an interview in a little bit here. But yeah.
Coco. Well, look, Ultra HD 4K Coco, all kinds of bonus material, deleted scenes, a lot more music. Look, who doesn't need more Coco? It really was a lovely little movie.
You know, for some reason, I don't know why. Mainly because I hate mariachi music so effing much. It's like the worst music I've ever heard in my effing life. It's so bad. I was predisposed not to like this film. And you know what? In the end, it completely won me over.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Pixar, another two winning films for Pixar in the last in this year for Blu-ray at least, and 4K. All right, and then lastly here, I think that's it for the 4K. Right, we're at the end of the 4K. So from BBC Earth, we've got a terrific 4K set: Planet Earth 2 and Blue Planet 2. This is their Planet collection. Both of these are stunning in 4K. If you really want to show off your 4K stuff and you don't need a movie, you just want to show a lot of amazing photography, this is the way to do it. This will just blow your system up in ways that you can't even comprehend. David Attenborough totally goes out of his way on Planet Earth 2. And then we also have on Blu-ray, just on Blu-ray, not 4K, is the Planet Earth collection, which is Planet Earth and Planet Earth 2. I don't know why this isn't also on 4K. You would have thought that they would have gone in 4K to Planet Earth. Maybe there's an expense issue there. I don't know. But anyway, also a really great, a terrific, great gift set. All right, so now we're going to talk about some books. And the first book we're going to talk about is our good friend Leonard Maltin's new book. But first, we're going to Yay, Leonard! So we're going to just let the interview speak for itself. We're going to pop our interview with Leonard in right here, and then we will pick up on that book and we will carry on from there. So Leonard, we're going to start right off, and this is we were all so crestfallen when the movie guide kind of came to its end, and it is so wonderful to have a new book out from you. And we're talking, of course, about Leonard's Hooked on Hollywood: Discoveries from a Lifetime of Film Fandom. This is such a delight to read through because, unlike the movie guide, it's not a reference book. This is all you. This is your personality and your experiences and your interviews. It's really an amazing journey, and it's a culmination of your entire career. Could you talk a little bit about how you just decided to do this book?
Well, actually, the impetus came from my publisher, who is a very good author and a bit of an entrepreneur named Robert Mattson. And he wrote a book year before last called Mission, about Jimmy Stewart's career during World War II. And no one had ever written about that before, in part because Stewart refused to talk about his experiences during the war. And Robert did his homework and came up with a really good, interesting book. And he and his wife, Mary, run a small imprint called Good Night, that's K-Night, Good Night Books. And he contacted me earlier this year and said, you got any book ideas wandering around? And I said, I don't feel very ambitious right now to start something from scratch. But I have all these old articles and interviews, which I think would be fun to collect and annotate. And he said, send me samples, and I did. The next day he called and said, let's do it. And it's actually one of the nicest relationships I've ever had with a publisher.
Well, there's so much stuff here. It's so rich, and it's with the Tim and I have been talking about this too. The demise of Filmstruck has everybody so upset, because it's like our film heritage is evaporating, and this book is like is going back to that. It sort of restores your faith in the system and in the history that gave us what we have today. I was particularly fascinated by the Joan Blondell interview. I've been watching a lot of Joan Blondell lately for a whole litany of reasons. But my father was
none of which you have to justify.
Yeah, but is there one interview that you've done that is in this book that is your favorite?
I can't pinpoint a favorite, but the one with Burgess Meredith.
Oh wow! I'm glad you said that, because I was about just to jump in to say, well, I can, because I really thoroughly enjoyed the Burgess Meredith. He was such an interesting guy.
He sure was. He had a really fascinating career, and when I interviewed him, everybody knew him as the Penguin from Batman, and that became his calling card. But in the midst of doing that, he was doing live theater around the country. He wore many hats, and he'd been a producer. He tried directing, but he was a man who was show business to the core. And he worked with Ernst Lubitsch and gave me a great Lubitsch story.
It's a wonderful story, by the way. That's just so fascinating. Burgess Meredith worked with Ernst Lubitsch. It's just one of those things you don't,
and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Now that's a career.
Lest we forget. Yes.
So wonderful. The remembering forgotten.
Yes. I was like 17 when I did that interview. Yeah. I couldn't even drive myself to his home. My father had to drive me, and he treated me like an adult. He was whatever the opposite of condescending is. That's what he was to me. He treated me as an adult, as a journalist, and that was meant the world to me.
Leonard, the part of the title of this book that I find the most interesting is Lifetime of Film Fandom. You're a film fan. Guys like us, we are cinephiles, and sometimes we get really hitty about this stuff. But you make it okay to just be sort of like a fan of the pop culture of movies, not just films, but movies. Talk about just loving movies a little bit for us.
Well, I don't remember a time I didn't. And when I was growing up, which is a little earlier in the chronology than you guys, I grew up with the TV set. I'm the first generation. I'm a baby boomer, and I'm of the first generation that never was without a television set. And we had a console TV set, I remember, a wooden cabinet, and it had slats on the side where the speaker sound came through. And I thought they were like a piggy bank, and I used to put coins in there, much to my parents' chagrin. In the days when you actually had to call a TV repairman. Talk about strange nostalgia.
You throw them out now. They're disposable, even the expensive ones.
That's right. Everything's disposable. But I grew up in the New York area where there were 7 stations, which was a lot more than some people had in their cities. And they had to fill all this time, all this airtime. So for children's entertainment, they ran the old Little Rascals shorts, Our Gang. They ran Laurel and Hardy. Later, the Three Stooges. They even ran some silent comedy shorts. So I was explaining to somebody the other day, because I had just seen the new movie Stan and Ollie and liked it very much. And I said, I really know these guys because I lived with them every day of my life for probably 10 years, and I've never abandoned them.
And that movie is so much about the abandonment that they experience too.
Yes, it is. And
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I had quite a startling realization at a certain point in that film that I forgot I was watching John C. Reilly and Steve Coogan.
Yeah.
I actually believed I was watching Laurel and Hardy, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
A couple of extraordinary actors, those guys. John C. Reilly, man, when he first popped on the scene, who would have thunk
I know.
that he would become this sort of like real thespian, capable of carrying films and doing character roles like this? Who would have thunk?
I know. And he has survived because of his extraordinary talent.
Hey, Leonard, talk to us a little bit about the bigwigs of the golden days: Louis B., Jack Warner, and Harry Cohen. What were the differences between these guys? You talk about it quite a bit in the book.
Well, that comes from many interviews I did with people at various rungs of the ladder who dealt with them. I interviewed James Garner briefly toward the end of his life. I said, and knowing that he hated Jack Warner and sued him to get out of his contract of doing the TV show Maverick, I said, I'm writing something about Jack Warner. He said, oh, you are? I said, yes. I said, how would you sum him up? He says, well, he was a crude man. And that's a widely accepted description of JL, as he was called. But like all of those guys, Harry Cohen was something of a vulgarian too. They were, they had no education. These people built careers flying blind on the seat of their pants, whatever you want to call it, and yet they loved what they did and reaped considerable rewards for it. Louis B. Mayer, unlike some of his cohorts, really craved prestige, and that was one thing that separated him from the herd. Remember, this is a Jewish immigrant who sold, more than anyone else probably, sold America on this idealized vision of itself, and which was to say decidedly non-ethnic, certainly not Jewish, and to use a phrase that's kind of shop-worn, all-American, an idealistic view of this country and its culture and its people.
Leonard, I'm going to confess that when I looked at I did not read the book straight through from the beginning. I hopped around because the first thing I saw in the table of contents was Remembering Forgotten Men. And I thought, oh, that's a play off of the old Busby Berkeley number, Remembering My Forgotten Man. And so I jumped right to it for a whole litany of reasons that Tim is aware of that
yeah,
get into now. But that is such an important section because it talks not just about Busby Berkeley and Warner Brothers in that particular moment in time where movies meant something different during the Depression, but it talks about a turning point. Could you talk a little bit about not just that one, but turning points in the movies? Because you are a film historian of the first order, and there are so many interesting anecdotes that come up when you talk about turning points in movie history. Can you talk just a little bit about where those moments, which in your opinion represent kind of when a fork in the road for the movies?
Well, that article is dependent largely on the access one has to the Warner Brothers papers at USC library, the Special Collections Library, I should say, USC here in LA. And they have all of Warner Brothers paperwork. And it's especially significant because Warner Brothers believed in putting everything in writing. It said so right on the letterhead, even on the printed memoranda pages they had. Put it in writing. Verbal communication causes confusion. It was their belief. And so, thank goodness, there is this vast and fascinating paper trail where you're not relying on anybody's memory. It's immediate. Here's a memo that Daryl Zanuck, the head of production, wrote on this Tuesday. And here's the response he got from Jack Warner on Wednesday. And here's the orders that went out to Busby Berkeley on Thursday. And here's a production report for how much they managed to shoot on Friday, et cetera, et cetera. I find it, I could live my whole life down there with, if they delivered food and drink. I just love going through this material. And it's extremely well organized too. If you take out the production folder on the Maltese Falcon, the very first thing you'll find is a memo from a reader, a staff reader in New York, recommending that Warner Brothers acquire the Dashiell Hammett story, The Maltese Falcon. And that was for the 1931 version. And then you just continue, day by day, week by week, month by month. It's like popcorn. I can't get enough.
What made Warner Brothers then so different in the 1930s? It kind of holds a unique place, and that comes out in that piece.
Well, this was initially the work of Daryl Zanuck, who was their head of production, and who throughout his career was a feisty and gutsy guy who made films that were daring, risky, and forward-thinking. And it was he, I suppose, ultimately, who gave the okay, or possibly even the order, to incorporate the Depression into this musical film, which was supposed to take people out of their troubles and away from their daily cares. But it's one of the most striking musical numbers of that entire decade, because it deals with veterans of World War I who are now considered, and this was an accepted term, forgotten men.
Yeah.
There was the bonus army. I mean, if you do a little homework on the Depression era, you find that this is a recurring theme. These guys fought, and in some cases gave their lives for their country and for the greater good. And look at them now; they're on bread lines. So it couldn't be more relevant, and it still resonates today, of course.
You call RKO the overlooked studio, and I agree. Talk a little bit. I mean, King Kong, Astaire and Rogers from RKO. Talk a little bit about RKO and how it just sometimes is a little bit overlooked.
And I just want to say, this is why Tim and I, this is what happens. We're like an old married couple. That was literally going to be my question, my next question too. So Tim just took it away. The only other thing I was going to say is, because what's so interesting is that RKO and Columbia share the record for the most Best Picture wins, and RKO is completely gone. It really is that lost studio. So yes, please talk about that.
Well, I've always been fascinated by that company. It was born at the dawn of the sound era, and it was a merger. Yes, they had mergers then of, let's see, the RCA company, founded and headed by David Sarnoff, which was then the bulwark of radio, of broadcast radio entertainment, and the Keith Orpheum's vaudeville circuit, which was a chain of theaters that initially featured vaudeville and then made a transition to talking pictures. And the problem that RKO had was that it never had one solid leader for any span of time. A lot of people who came through there were really talented people, like David O. Selznick and Marion C. Cooper and Pandro Berman. These were all very fine producers, but the sands were always shifting at RKO. the man who signed Orson Welles to the dream contract of a lifetime to have carte blanche to make a film, which of course became Citizen Kane, was no longer there to support him just a year or two later when he was trying to finish Magnificent Ambersons. It's quite a history. And if they had done nothing but King Kong and The Informer and the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers musicals, they would be of interest. But the fact that they did so much more, and sometimes in an eccentric way, and had made so many films that are have sort of slipped through the cracks.
All those wonderful pre-code sort of, very, that stuff is just amazing. No other studio had the balls to do that stuff.
They did a little of everything. And my friend Rick Jewell finally finished his two-part history of RKO. It's in 2 volumes. And if you're interested in the real business history of this unusual endeavor, then I recommend those books.
I'm gonna go get those. I don't know that I was even aware of that. That's a great thing to know about. That's fantastic.
Well, that's the problem with university presses, is that they don't have the resources to do the kind of publicity or promotion or advertising that one might like. I think he's published by University of California Press.
Well, we're giving it a plug here, and that's a good thing.
Leonard, you have so many photos here, rare if not ones never before seen. Talk about where did these photos come from in the first place? I mean, what kind of archive had this stash?
My filing cabinet, mostly.
Really?
I started collecting movie stills when I was 12, and the reason I did was that I could afford them. In those days, I paid 25 to 50 cents for a still at a average memorabilia shop in New York City. And even then, there were price gougers who went, above that. How dare you charge, $1.50 for this photo? I would say, and it seemed like every one of those shops was run by a kook or a screwball or a character of some sort. And I have vivid memories of spending my Saturdays traveling from one to another as I was publishing my fanzine, Film Fan Monthly, and wanted to, find the appropriate stills to accompany the articles we were running. I had friends who were collectors. They also loaned me stills, which was great. But in those days, those pre-internet days, the Cro-Magnon era, before there was such a thing as the internet, can you imagine? I was loath to borrow their stills because somebody had to then make a copy, and some printers would mark them up with grease pens and or lose them. And I didn't want that responsibility. Compared to today, when in order to retrieve these stills and convey them to my publisher in the Midwest, I just put them in my scanner, and set the DPI at the required number. And a couple of minutes later, he had them.
Leonard, let's wrap out on this topic, because this is so important. I lived in memorabilia shops in Hollywood, when I was a teenager as well. I mean, that was so important to me, and I collected stuff as well, programs and whatnot. And we seem to be in a place now, kind of going back to what's happened to Filmstruck and the fact that Netflix doesn't have old movies on it, really. It's all new product. Are we, with all the noise that we have there, are we at risk of losing something? And if so, what can we do to reverse it and give the history of movies a sheen for the new generation again?
I think the real question is desire. What is the desire to see these films? And how is that to be kindled or rekindled, as the case may be? I teach at USC, and a couple of years ago, Robert Zemeckis, a proud USC alum, came with his newest film, Flight, which I thought was quite good. And he told me that, and he's been very generous to his alma mater. There's a Zemeckis Digital Filmmaking Center there, which he funded. And he said that walking around the campus, he didn't feel that buzz in the air of excitement about just devouring movies. And he was there in the 70s with a lot of other now famous filmmakers. And he said it was just before home video. And in those days, the studios would happily loan 35 millimeter prints to the college for them to screen over. He said, over a weekend, we might watch 7 John Ford films. And he said, we couldn't get enough. We ate, drank, breathed, slept movies. And he was just on a superficial visit. He did not get that same feeling. He's right. That feeling is, if not completely gone, hard to find. And the irony is that this, right now, is the best time in history for access to those films. You know, home video started it. Specialty DVD and Blu-ray distributors and producers took it a giant leap forward, and then came streaming and services like Filmstruck. They're not the only ones out there, but they were perhaps the most prominent. And it's great to have them available. Someone's got to want to watch them. Yeah. This is why I tell, anytime I meet a parent of younger kids who says to me, oh, I'm showing my kid all the Laurel and Hardy movies, or I'm showing my kid all the Disney animated features, I said, God bless you. You're passing it along. You know, and that's vital, absolutely vital.
It does seem to be a thing that has to be bequeathed from one generation to the next. Yeah. Which I mean, it doesn't seem to be a thing that sort of happens naturally. When I teach, you know, I make sure to begin at the beginning. You know, sometimes I start with the Lumiere brothers. You know, and sometimes it's a little hard to keep really young people sort of connected to that stuff. But if you can make that through line appear to bring them up to the present day, you know, I think it's worth it, because that's the idea, to pass it along.
Yeah, I guess there's no easy answer to it.
No, there isn't. But there's hope. I'm not entirely pessimistic. When I go to the TCM Classic Film Festival every April, which I host in part, I'm really encouraged by the span of age, or the demographics, shall we say, of who attends. It's not just people with blue hair. I mean, it's a range of ages and types, and they come in from all 50 states and beyond. And they're just thrilled to be here. Thrilled.
Well, Leonard, that should wrap it up. Thank you so much for speaking with us. The book is Hooked on Hollywood: Discoveries from a Lifetime of Film Fandom by Leonard Maltin, whom we are proud to claim as a friend and a colleague. And Leonard, good luck with the remainder of your screeners and award season. I know we're inundated, so I assume you must be too. So there it is, Leonard Maltin's Hooked on Hollywood: Discoveries from a Lifetime of Film Fandom. A terrific book.
Great book.
It's interviews. It's you know, everything we just talked about. It's absolutely it's just wonderful.
Yeah, and the personal stuff. For so long, Leonard's been writing about movies since he was a little kid. Yeah. In the middle, early '60s. Amazing. And had met all these people and did all these things. And I love that he said all he had to do was go over to his file cabinet. And he had his own archive, his own personal archive of photographs and memorabilia and stories. Just fantastic.
There's another wonderful book we were sent. It's not quite so movie related, but it is, it sort of ties in a little bit. Joe DeYoung, A Life in the West by William Reynolds, which is this beautiful coffee table book on the life of artist Joe DeYoung, who is the only protege that Charlie Russell ever had. And it's absolutely lovely. It is, it's just it's a beautifully put together book, beautifully written book, lots of great photographs in it, and it's from in terms of the life of an artist and the way that an artist's life corresponds to their art. It's one of the better books on the subject that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And then also we have Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn and World War II by Robert Mattson, who previously wrote Jimmy Stewart and the Fight for Europe. And this is what he knows. He knows this particular landscape very, very well. If you don't know the story of Audrey Hepburn during World War II, you really don't know anything about Audrey Hepburn. She's more than a movie star. She's Belge by birth.
Well,
And-
people always talked about how slight she was.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why she was so slight is because she almost starved to death.
Yep.
During that period, like a lot of other people, but yeah.
And as I've mentioned before, I'm the son of a World War II refugee. My mother was Prussian and was a little girl when she fled the collapse of the Eastern Front. I heard a lot of those stories, and Audrey Hepburn lived through many of the same kinds of things. I'll tell you nothing here, but just know that what she went through in World War II made her who she turned into. It gave her the stuff to become a star. It's a very, very impressive book. Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn and World War II. And then, Mark, what am I holding in my hands?
White gloves.
That's right, white
Yes.
gloves. Do you know why I'm holding white gloves?
Yeah.
Because you hold the Taschen books in such revere.
Yeah.
Such
That's right.
reverence.
I don't touch a Taschen book unless I'm wearing white gloves. These are white gloves that I used when I used to edit, but now that editing is all computer based.
Edited film, actually.
Film, yes, so that you don't get your goopy fingerprints all over the film. So that's right. We're going to talk about 4 amazing Taschen books right now. These are from the Archives collection. Now, they previously released the Ingmar Bergman Archives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is fantastic, and the Kubrick Archives,
Which I have.
which are fantastic. The James Bond Archives. Now, these are giant books
That's a big
filled
book.
with artwork. This is so freaking beautiful. I don't even know where to begin. I can't stand it. It's just so beautiful. Everything to do with James Bond. Anything that is James Bond is in these books.
Is that a slip?
Having trouble, Wade?
Is that a slip cover?
No. Hold on. Hang on.
It's Wade's wearing white
Well,
gloves,
it's-
which means he cannot take the cellophane off
Because
his
he
book.
can't use his
Because he can't
fingernails.
Hold on.
Hold on.
There
Do
we
I
go.
have a key? There
Don't
you go.
stop the recording.
There we go.
Oh, there
no,
we
no, we're not. It's hold on.
Red
Hold on.
and black.
Okay, here we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, now you guys, you're just going to die here. You're going to die at how beautiful this is. And a couple of Taschen books I also have that they did not send us, but which I have PDFs of, and I'm going to make mention of those too. But look at this. Look at this. Production boards.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Old school
Isn't
strip
that-
strip
look at
style
that.
I
production
used to
board.
write- I used to make those after.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at all the behind the scenes stuff. Underwater photography. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Look, George Lazenby and Diana Rigg.
Oh my God, Diana Rigg.
Oh,
Yeah.
the artwork. Oh.
If people ever ask you if James Bond was married, he was in one movie to Diana Rigg,
Yeah.
and the
There we
only
go.
one
Look,
Lazenby played. Yeah.
Credit sequences, outtakes. It's hysterical. Look, you don't get a picture of Roger Moore bald, though. That's the one thing I was hoping for. There's no bald Roger Moore in here, so apparently he never allowed them. But I mean, everything has. You get credit sequence stills of everything. It's just the stunts. It's beautiful. This is amazing. You can relive every James Bond film. It's just gorgeous.
Fantastic, big book.
We also have the Pedro Almodovar Archives, which previously came out. This was edited by Paul Duncan, who is the big cheese for Taschen in the UK, and Barbara Pero. And that is, I would say, incomplete because we still have a lot of Pedro Almodovar to come. That's the one that does not have kind of an end. I mean, James Bond sort of, we're going to keep getting more James Bond films as well. But in terms of the auteur stuff, that's the one that really has an end to it. Does not yet have an end to it. And Charlie Chaplin Archives. Right? Come on, white glove it up. Be a tramp with me.
Yeah.
Come on, tramp it up. Every conceivable thing that you could find from Charlie Chaplin's career.
Can they send me a PDF of that?
Do you want me to see if I can get one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Since I'm a little itinerant right now, Wade. I don't have a place to live.
And then also the Walt Disney Archives. I will put links to all of these on a CineGods post. You will be able to find where to purchase them, and I highly recommend it. The Walt Disney Archives. You could Here's the thing about the Disney Archives is I'm kind of amazed at the at how they were able to distill it, because you know that there's enough stuff for 50 volumes or 100 volumes of this. So how you distill the Disney stuff into just one is a little bit of a thing. I don't know how that decision making process went.
Your white gloves so I can look at the gym fondly.
Okay, you do that.
These are Hall of Fame. They're very expensive, by the way.
Wade's hands are way bigger than yours. So how's that going to work?
And then we also have these are the ones they sent me PDFs of, so I can vouch for them only in terms of not the final copies, but the books themselves. But one of them is very timely. It is Roy Thomas's The Stan Lee Story.
Yeah.
And
Stan, that's who else we lost.
Yeah, that's who else we lost to Stan Lee. It was just, my goodness. And wow, this is really, really terrific. This is, Stan Lee's, it's the most unusual career because he didn't create Marvel, but he came to be synonymous with Marvel. He was the guy that, it's not like Walt Disney where this is entirely your baby. It was somebody else's baby, but he made the baby his own. He adopted it, right? Yeah. And so much amazing artwork here from all of these, and it's from all the eras and all the different ages. And there are letters and really, really interesting stuff. It's just a wonderful, wonderful collection of material and really well written as well. It's a wonderful tribute to Stan Lee, very, very timely. I'm glad that this exists. And then the Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse is the other one.
I believe today is the 90th year anniversary of Walt creating Mickey.
It is.
Steamboat Willie, anyway.
Steamboat Willie, which preceded Mickey.
Because I work at Entertainment Television, I know this.
Yeah.
Today, we're recording this on a Sunday. It is the 90th anniversary of the premiere of Steamboat Willie.
There you go. Anyway, so this is the complete history of Mickey Mouse, and it's a Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse: The Ultimate History from Taschen. And wow, this is gorgeous as well. I mean, again, how do you distill all of this Disney material into one thing? And remember, Disney has their own publishing. So we've talked about a lot of Disney books. When Disney lets something go for Taschen, you know that it's got to be super special. They've got to, it's got to be worth their while.
Now, by the way, at that Taschen party, I don't know if you saw this, but at that Taschen party, there was a copy of that Mickey Mouse one on the table.
Oh, I didn't see that.
By the window.
Really?
Yeah, when I arrived and nobody was there because I arrived super early because I didn't know how long it was going to take to get to the Hollywood Hills on Uber. I looked through that book. It looks great.
Well, this gets into the toys, the original Mickey Mouse toys. It's not just the animated stuff. It's everything about Mickey Mouse, the way that Mickey Mouse is ingratiated into the popular culture and all that stuff. So really, really fantastic. This is just through the roof amazing, and can't get enough of this. So would love to get a hard copy of this one day, but that's the one they sent to me on PDF. But you know what? Any of these will be a gift to be treasured by any movie fan. Any movie fan, even if they're like 2 years old, get them started early. Give them the Pedro Almodovar archives. That's what you give your toddler.
One of the things that you and I and Leonard talked about the other day was connecting to the whole film struck situation.
Yeah.
And film education of people and getting younger people to be engaged in cinema, older cinema. Not just the cinema of the last 5 years. These books can help with that. If we were to
absolutely
these books, particularly these books, big books full of pictures and story and narrative and behind the scenes, maybe that's the way you draw younger people into the older films of the past. You introduce them to big, beautiful books like this.
I think that's the way to do it. The library is always the thing that I go to first whenever I'm feeling like a movie urge. I go to the library, I read a book, and eventually you wind up watching the movie. But movie history is a wonderful thing, and all these books are great. All right, Tim, you got something special there.
Well, I got to tell you,
we got a giveaway with this. We got a giveaway associated with this, so go ahead.
I love Bill Murray's Scrooged. I love Scrooged. As far as these things kind of go. This is one of the adaptations of a Christmas style story, a Christmas story,
Yep.
that I just couldn't help it. This movie was a big flop.
I know.
Didn't make a nickel.
But it's become a classic.
It's a classic. It's hysterically funny. There's all kinds of great stuff in this movie. Here we've got it on Blu-ray and DVD. It's got a few neat things on it, but not all that much. All I can say is this goes with along with Quick Change.
Yeah.
And Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Alongside all of those little
Yeah.
Bill Murray moment movies,
Yeah.
this one can sit right along all those. The first Ghostbusters.
We have 2 of these to give away, and not just 2, but they're 2 that come with an anniversary Christmas tree ornament, a blue Christmas tree ornament. Or a green Christmas tree ornament, sorry. So we're giving away 2 Scrooged Blu-rays along with 2 ornaments, and that is courtesy of the good people at Paramount. Go ahead and send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com and just put Bill, Bill, in the subject line, name and address in the body. And by November 30th, we will choose 2 very lucky people. Here's another giveaway. The original Christmas Specials collection on Blu-ray, Deluxe Collection. Finally putting all this stuff together on Blu-ray. It hasn't been on Blu-ray before. We're giving away 1 of these. And this, of course, includes Frosty and Rudolph and Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Little Drummer Boy, and The Cricket on the Hearth. The original 5. They are all Rankin Bass productions. And of course, Frosty and Cricket on the Hearth are conventionally 2D animated. The rest are all stop motion. And they're just wonderful. My daughter has fallen in love with these just like I did when I was her age, and it's wonderful. We're giving away 1 of these. Just put specials with an S at the end in the subject line, gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com, and 1 very lucky person will get the deluxe edition of the original Christmas Specials. 5 classic Rankin Bass shows, and you know what? I'm not even going to bother talking anymore about them because they're great. And then we are also giving away 3 Murdoch Mysteries Christmas Cases limited edition, from Acorn. Murdoch Mysteries, the Christmas Cases limited edition from ITV and Acorn TV. Murdoch Mysteries have done a wonderful job with their holiday specials. There are 3 of them on here, and we've talked about this previously. And this even contains a collectible Christmas card. So it's a wonderful box set. It's packaged like a gift, and just put Murdoch in the subject line, MURDOCH, Murdoch, and that will go for 3 people who will be eligible to win the Murdoch Mysteries Christmas Cases limited edition.
Love the Murdoch Mysteries, so much fun. Krampus. We've got Krampus here.
Mark loves Krampus.
The origins of Krampus. Krampus, of course, is the Christmas demon. Because every holiday every holiday needs a demon. Anyway, this one's about a kid who has this wacky family and things are kind of going badly. He gets angry and decides he just doesn't want to participate in Christmas anymore and turns his back on it. Of course, Krampus, what he does is he punishes non-believers. So this kid sort of inadvertently summons up Krampus to terrorize his family. Krampus is pretty ugly. Kind of looks like a skeleton reindeer is what he looks like. On this thing. And bonus features include behind-the-scenes video and the filmmaker's audio commentary. Krampus from 2015.
Gotta love it. Love Krampus. We've also got for kids, Blaze Saves Christmas. This is from Nick Jr., Blaze and the Monster Machines. And it's for little kids. But if you got little kids, we're giving away 3 of these. 3 Blaze and the Monster Machines, Blaze Saves Christmas. Send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com with Blaze in the subject line. 3 people will win this. Yeah, I mean, it skews super, super young, but it's fine. It's got 4 episodes on it, and it's all very seasonal, and it's fun for kids. And we're also giving away 3 SpongeBob SquarePants holiday 2-packs, also courtesy of the people at Nickelodeon and Paramount. So for that, just put Bob, B-O-B, Bob, in the subject line, and somebody very lucky will get those. And here's what else we're giving away. We're giving away 1 of Benji's very own Christmas story from Joe Camp, the director of the original Benji. This is just Benji. It's Benji, it's holiday Benji, for crying out loud. Benji's a dog. What else do you need to know? This is newly restored on Blu-ray. Just put Benji in the subject line, and one lucky person will get Benji's very own Christmas story. It's a dog movie. You'll go, aw, a whole lot. Mark's not going, aw, because Mark is totally engrossed in James Bond.
Yeah. You have to get this book.
In the white,
It's amazing, right?
In the white glove.
You have to get me a free copy of this book.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the Creatures Were Stirring 2018, another horrifying demon-infested Christmas movie. What the hell is going on with the demons in the Christmas movie?
You know, it's like Christmas slasher films too.
Yeah, it's just kind of. There was a good. What was that one? Black Christmas. That was good.
Yeah. And what is it? Bloody Christmas or something.
This one, same kind of thing. Special features includes the filmmaker's commentary. All the creatures were stirring.
Snow awesome. Let's play on so awesome. This is all the Power Girls from Nick Jr., which includes Shimmer and Shine and Nella and Sunny, and they got a whole bunch of fun episodes here that are all Christmas and holiday themed and winter themed, and these includes 2 all new holiday specials. So that's also from Nick Jr. For the kids. Pat Boone and Family, Season's Greetings. These are the Christmas and Thanksgiving specials from Pat Boone, and this is a real vintage walk down memory lane with TV back when they used to have these specials in the 50s and 60s.
Andy Williams and
everybody,
Perry Como,
everybody,
Pat Boone,
and this is fun. You get Bob Hope and the Hudson Brothers and Dinah Shore, and it's some surprise guests that you wouldn't expect from Hanna-Barbera. Wink, wink. Pat Boone and Family it's a wonderful collection of specials from 50s and 60s for Thanksgiving, and Pat Boone is still with us. Dang it!
Yeah, Pat Boone.
That guy does not go around. Just won't go away. I remember his heavy metal album.
Oh yeah,
that was
he had a moment.
Funniest thing ever.
He had a moment wearing leather.
Lifetime makes ridiculous number of Christmas movies. A friend of ours has written a number of them, and they just crank these things out. It's like nonstop Christmas romance and all over the place. We've got 2 double features. One is Wrapped Up in Christmas with Tatiana Ali and Jasmine Guy and Kim Fields and Brendan Fair.
Yeah.
And then we also have Snowed In Christmas with Bethany Joy Lenz, Andrew Walker, and Tasha Smith. That's one double feature from Lifetime. The other Christmas double feature from Lifetime is A Very Merry Toy Store with Melissa Joan Hart and Mario Lopez. Aww.
Yeah.
Isn't that a cute couple?
Sabrina and the kid from Saved by the Bell.
And then a bunch of people I never heard of in 4 Christmases and a Wedding. Well, Judge Reinhold I used to have heard of, so he's in this. So anyway, those are. Look, did we watch these? No. We just life's too short, and there was a fire.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here during an evacuation and just go, I think I can watch some Lifetime Christmas specials. It's not gonna happen. But somebody out there, Mario Lopez and Melissa Joan Hart. That's the one I should have watched. But anyway, Mark, are you even gonna come back to reality? You are going Bond nuts.
Well, I'm making my way to the Daniel Craig one.
Oh my goodness.
What do you think of Timothy Dalton's Bond?
Yeah, Timothy Dalton was a good Bond. The movies were not good. The narratives were not good. They couldn't figure out who to make the bad guy. So in License to Kill, that was the early '80s, and the Colombian drug dealers were all the things. So they suddenly the bad guy. And I'm like, when the hell did MI5? When did they become concerned
Seriously,
with people, guys selling coke in Florida? Who the hell cares?
And is there a better Bond song than Live and Let Die?
Yeah. So we've got some
wow.
Wait, I'll put it down.
There we go. The Mr. Rogers documentary is probably going to win the Oscar, almost certainly.
Oh man, my God, that movie is just so wonderful.
Okay, tell me that the last 10 minutes of that film, the what he chose to wrap that thing up, he asked that final question. Tell me that you didn't cry.
Yeah.
I didn't cry.
I
wept.
Yeah, I was gone. He is one of the few people, iconic figures in the American culture, who, apparently, it turns out to be who he seemed to be. Right, he was who he seemed to be, as opposed to what Harvey turned out to be. And B, the person that he seemed to be was really an extraordinary person. Although look, this guy was a fairly conservative sort of Republican guy,
but not in the context of what we think of when
No,
we
he
talk
was-
about that today.
He was also a minister. He was also I mean, I won't get into any of it, but there are so many things about him that you don't know.
Yeah.
That made him who he was, and it's the collection, it's the confluence of all that.
Yeah.
That really makes that movie.
What's the name? What's the name of the doc? Won't you be my neighbor? Is the name of the doc. This is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. From PBS, Mr. Rogers, It's Like You, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, includes 30 classic episodes from 1979 to 2001, which is sort of America. And then the other one is just a wonderful collection of people talking about to Mr. Rogers, and 30 minutes of bonus video material. And what's great about this is that folks can be as old as us or a little bit older, actually, and have thoughts and conversations and memories of Mr. Rogers. And that show only went off the air about 2001 or 2 or something like that. So you have some fairly young people who still have, thoughts and ideas about Mr. Rogers. It's kind of wonderful.
Fantastic. So we've got a bunch of other regular movies to talk about, too. I'm going to roll through here really quickly and make mention of the Criterion titles that we're recommending for gift season. There are a bunch of them. And these are kind of the cream of the year. The ones that aren't too obscure, that are more mainstream, they're classic, they're heartwarming, they have something going that serious movie fans will love, especially with the demise of Filmstruck, about which we will have more to say soon. We'll also want to remind everybody, Criterion has announced that they are now doing their own streaming service, which will premiere next spring.
Which really is what should have happened instead of film.
Well, this is very interesting, and we will save this for a future show, but it's interesting that the Warner service is going to debut in late 2019, and the Criterion service is debuting in spring, basically to replace... That tells you how quickly Filmstruck was canned, that Criterion didn't see it coming, and it's going to take them a little bit of time to sort of transition everything and get back up and running with all the same stuff. But I've already become a Charter subscriber. Have you?
No, I've not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well. Anyway, so here's all the good Criterion stuff for the season. Everything here we have reviewed previously, except for this beautiful special edition of The Princess Bride, which brings to mind someone else that we recently lost, William Goldman.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Yeah.
It's been like the last 2 weeks. It's just been one death after another.
Yeah.
Right. It's been crazy. William Goldman, brilliant screenwriter. His last great triumph after, kind of breaking through in the 60s and 70s and, Butch and Sundance and All the President's Men, The Princess Bride was based on a book of his, and they've released a beautiful Criterion Blu-ray as a purple book. It just makes it look like a fairy book, and like a fairy tale book, and it's beautiful. This is from 1987. They've done a wonderful job with it. This has been out on Blu-ray previously. Just take that Blu-ray and make it a coaster. This is everything you want. This has so many interviews and archival materials on it. It's extraordinary. There's a new interview, especially with the art director Richard Holland, that is so absolutely wonderful. It just gives you a whole new insight into how they put the movie together. It's absolutely wonderful. The other stuff. The other really ace Criterion stuff, the Dietrich and von Sternberg in Hollywood collection, which is everything that Joseph von Sternberg and Marlene Dietrich did together in Hollywood. Shanghai Express, Morocco, The Scarlet Empress, The Devil is a Woman, all these great movies from the 1930s. Just a legendary period, a beautiful box set. Also, My Man Godfrey, one of the great all-time screwball comedies, just doesn't get much better than that, also from the 1930s, 1936. For real art house fans, Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, which is tough stuff, but it's kind of the all-time classic art film, and it includes the theatrical version and the almost endless 5-hour television version from Swedish television that very few people have seen. By the way, there is the ultimate Ingmar Bergman box set coming out, which we're going to try to dedicate a whole show to, actually. And that's on its way. Don't have it in hand yet. Then we also have Andrei Rublev, the Andrei Tarkovsky film, which includes some wonderful little bit by our good friend Justin Chang, who participated in this. This is from 1966, the quintessential Andrei Tarkovsky art film.
Mm.
And Sidney Poitier in A Raisin in the Sun, directed by Dan Petrie from 1961, sort of the archetypal 60s conscience film, and the film that really put it didn't put him on the map, but it made him a legendary star. It's the one that sort of said this guy's going to be around a long time and has great things coming.
Adaptation of Lorraine Hansberry, of course.
Yes,
Sydney had been in the play.
Yeah.
And we lost Lorraine really young too. I think she was only 30 some odd years old when she died after that great success. So there's a thing. 12 Monkeys, 1995. 12 Monkeys. To my mind, look, this isn't the film that made Brad Pitt a star, but it's the film that made him serious actor.
Oscar nomination.
Oscar nomination. This is the one where everybody said, "Oh, wait a minute, he's not just a pretty boy."
It was also one of Terry Gilliam's last good films.
Yes, true. Before he drank the CGI Kool-Aid. After that, Terry stopped building things and started computerizing, Mr. Imaginariums.
Forget that. That's
all
lame.
that crap. But this is 12 Monkeys. This is fantastic. Christopher Marker's La Jetée, of course, being the source material, sort of base source material of it all. It's just one of the best time travel movies ever conceived and made. It almost actually makes sense.
It's right. It's confusing, but if you really sit with it, you realize it makes sense. And something else too. This thing was adapted by David Peoples, who also wrote Blade Runner and what else? Unforgiven. So Blade Runner, Unforgiven, and 12 Monkeys. David Peoples pretty much is right up there with those three films. I think Peoples also might have written the Blade Runner sequel, but we won't fault him for that.
I mean, look, those credits alone give you bragging rights. They just do.
You should not have to pay for a drink at any Hollywood bar.
No, never again. That's it. You're done at that point. Yeah.
All kinds of stuff on this by the special edition kind, just more stuff. Your 4K restoration, blah blah blah. I mean, you name it. If it has anything to do with 12 Monkeys. I wonder if the old commentary in interviews and feature stuff from the old release on DVD are on here. I wonder if that stuff's on here. I hope that it is.
See, I don't know what the original had. So
it had some really, really great interviews, the making of the movie, and great stuff. It was really, I used to teach that. If you want to see how a film was produced, the producers of 12 Monkeys,
they have the Hamster Factory.
All of that stuff is on here.
That's
the one. Okay, great.
Yeah. That's on it for sure. And we have got a couple of other things here. Let's see. William Castle Horror Collection is a nice little introduction to William Horror. 5 films: 13 Ghosts, 13 Frightened Girls, Mr. Sardonicus, Homicidal, and The Old Dark House. That is a Mill Creek set. That is a wonderful, wonderful gift for somebody who just loves those kinds of movies and doesn't mind having them on a Mill Creek DVD, which is a bargain DVD, but. They're old films, and they go to. It's a nice quintet of films. The 13-part series from Chris Marker, The Owl's Legacy. If you're a Chris Marker fan, as long as we're talking about 12 Monkeys, Chris Marker made, of course, La Jetée, which is the inspiration, the source material for 12 Monkeys. Really unusual French filmmaker, and this is a masterpiece series that has not been seen in 30 years, finally out on DVD from Icarus, and they've done a great job with it. This is every single, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's avant-garde, because it's not really avant-garde, but it's just daring, and it talks to all these different figures and intellectuals and artists, and it talks to them about how Greek culture influenced their art, their process, but it's done in such an interesting way, and it's just uniquely Chris Marker, and you have to check it out. The Owl's Legacy, a 13-part series. Really, really great stuff for anybody who's a Chris Marker fan.
Fantastic stuff. Joseph Campbell's. This is the 30th anniversary edition of the PBS series, The Power of Myth, which was hosted by Bill Moyers, and Joseph Campbell was in it. Yep. He's a mythologist, a linguist. Joseph Campbell basically sort of set the tone, the shape for the sort of heroic journeys that heroes in films took by going out and doing all this research all around the world of the way mythological stories have been created in Eastern culture and Western culture and all of this kind of stuff. And of course, started teaching this stuff in the 60s. He did this landmark series in the late 80s. And I have to tell you, you can tell what filmmakers of the last 30 odd years paid attention. To this series, because everything that he talks about, they've stuck in, particularly American cinema, for the last 30, even longer years. Sure. Everything that's in Star Wars, all of the different Star Wars, everything that's in any of those the movies that have a hero in them comes from Joseph Campbell, and a lot of it came out of this series.
including The Sound of Music. How's that for a segue? The 60th anniversary of Sound of Music can be celebrated with the Sound of Music Live. Rogers and Hammerstein's Sound of Music Live, which was...
ITV thing.
Sorry?
It was an ITV special.
Yes, it was an ITV special, and it's quite lovely. I mean, I love the movie. The movie is, of course, incomparable, but this was in 2015. They did a great ITV special, and it was lovely, and it's great in its own right. And you should definitely check it out. Cara Toynton is fabulous in this. Does not displace Julie Andrews, doesn't rival Julie Andrews, but makes it her own, and it's quite lovely. So this was a great experiment, and it worked out beautifully, and that's on Blu-ray, and I would highly recommend that if you want a nice alternative to the all-time traditional classic 1965 Oscar winner. And
America the Beautiful. Looks
There
like
we
a little documentary here. The complete National Parks collection, America the Beautiful, 10-part series with a bonus documentary on it. Basically, it takes you all around a tour of all of the wonderful American national parks: Death Valley, Yosemite, Yellowstone, you name it. These filmmakers go to it, film it beautifully shot. Looks great on digital and Blu-ray. They talk a little bit about the history and how these. The particular monuments were established and who established them. It's really interesting stuff. This is America. I've not been to as many of these as I wish that I had. In fact, I've never been to Yosemite. Been to the Grand Canyon, of course. Been to Yellowstone. Been to Death Valley, but never been to Yosemite.
You know what we're gonna do, Tim? You're gonna come to Yosemite when my daughter graduates 5th grade. 'Cause that's what the kids at the elementary school do. That's what the PTA does. It sends them all to Yosemite. I've never been either.
That's fun. We got to go to Yosemite.
Mark, you want to go? Are you in?
I've been to Yosemite.
Okay, then you guys can be chaperones. I don't know if the school said. Look, I'll figure out a way.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be
Make it
fantastic.
happen.
Oh, great. 13 hours. Great stuff.
The PTA will pay. I hear they pay for everything.
As long as I'm not paying.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So anyway, gonna roll through some anime right now. We've got ourselves another giveaway. We are giving away 3 copies of the amazing anime classic Metropolis. Now, Metropolis has a fascinating history, which we won't entirely get into. Of course, it is connected to the Fritz Lang Metropolis, but by way of extraordinary anime. It's its own film. It's not, a perfect imitation. It kind of makes it its own. This is a brand new Blu-ray release. It is fantastic. It is from Mill Creek. It is beautifully packaged. We're giving away 3 of them. So just put Metropolis, straight up Metropolis, in the subject line of the email and send it to gods@cinegods.com or gods@digigods.com. Get it to us by November 30th, and 3 people will be very happily immersed in the world of Metropolis by the great Japanese animation master Osamu Tezuka. And I don't know what he's done lately. It's been a while. But anyway, so let's just roll through a few more things that are worth mentioning here. Juni Tyson's Zodiac War. This is from Funimation. Comes with their own digital copy. I kind of wish that they didn't have their own Funimation digital copy. It would be nice if Funimation joined Movies Anywhere, but they aren't. Not for the time being. So you have their own. They have their own digital copy thing going. But anyway, so you have that, and so Juni Tyson's the Zodiac War, which is cyberpunk and war stuff. We have Jin Tama Series 3 Part 2. If you've been following that, that's also a really, really cool series. Very guy-oriented, skewing super young, is Pop Team Epic. I want to see the look on Mark's face when I show him this.
Ew.
They look like marshmallows. This skews even younger than Hello Kitty. This is kind of like South Park anime. Is that maybe a good way to put it? It's cute, but it's kind of nasty at the same time, and it's very, very strange. It's based on a web comic. And it's one of the few times where I've seen Japanese animation use a kind of humor, a sense of humor that we actually can access. Because normally Japanese humor is not culturally accessible outside of Japan. It makes a difficult transition. But in this case, not so. We've also got Brave Witches, the complete series, which is 13 episodes in what is actually a really, really fun show. You'll enjoy it. I want to go through this as quickly as possible. Let's see. Free, Take Your Marks. This is the sequel movie to the original series, which I actually think is better than the series, but it's very much an acquired taste. Dagashi Kashi, Series 2. This is precisely that sense of humor that I don't particularly get, but, I don't need to. Let's see. The Testament of Sister New Devil, Season 2, Burst. That's more schoolgirl antics and supernatural. I don't know what it is.
The titles are just...
I don't know what it is about them that they I don't know. I don't get it. And then let's see. 2 more here that fit the bill. We've got Dragon Ball Super Part 5 for Dragon Ball fans. And no, that's not the one. Hang on. Here we go. And then High Speed Free Starting Days, also part of the free universe. When this is the prequel movie, so we're bookending the free universe with the 2 films. That just about does it, guys.
That's it.
I think that's about it. So,
are we doing an interview?
We are. We're wrapping the show out with an interview with a television showrunner. And Tim, this is the interview that I was supposed to be a part of at the beginning, but Mark delayed me at the Saucer House party with Mr. Tashin. Yeah, it's all your fault. I know. It was actually, you know whose fault it actually was? It was what? Well, no. It was It was, well, first of all, they started the thing late, but second of all, it's because Al Pacino and Michael Mann were having a conversation right in front of the door, and I couldn't get past them. And why would I want to interrupt that conversation anyway? Because I've seen Heat. I know what those guys can do.
Yeah.
They could be talking about Heat 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, that would be so awesome. Wouldn't that be great? The Heat sequel. Anyway, no, but so I come in late on this interview, but Tim started the interview with LaToya Morgan.
LaToya is a showrunner, writer extraordinary, young woman, young black woman who has 2 shows upcoming. She was one of the showrunners and writers on the series Into the Badland that our very good friend Sherman Augustus is a star on.
But she was also one of the top writers on
Turn,
and Washington Spies.
And she's running a few shows. She's just made a little film called Team Merlin, a little political film that'll be out sometime next year. Sherman happens to be in that as well. And LaToya, we're just a big fan. LaToya is a showrunner, and we thought it would be nice to have her on the show to explain what the hell that means, what a showrunner is. In film, we know that the central figure is the director, occasionally the auteur, director, writer. In television, the central figure is a person called the showrunner, who is usually a writer, very often not a director, almost always a producer. But more than a producer, a showrunner. I think the title speaks for itself. Mark, having been one, explain a little bit.
Well, I've been a showrunner not in the scripted world, but in the scripted world, the showrunner is a little bit like the director in a film, like you're kind of like what you're saying. Whereas the showrunner is the one who not only created the show, right, but has every single piece of that show in their head. They know the characters, they know the arc of the entire season. They're the ones they're the ones who make sure that the vision of the show is maintained. Yeah. They're the ones coherent. They're the ones who run the writers' room to make sure that the episodes are delivered on time and that they're good. They sometimes direct the episodes, sometimes not. So the showrunner is the most important person. They are really the vision of the show. Not only are they the overall vision of the show creatively in terms of what you see, but also they're the ones who run the nuts and bolts of the writer's room and making sure that the shows are done on time, on budget, and that they're good.
There you go. So
LaToya Morgan is a top one.
She has a deal with AMC. She's really coming on strong, and we really thought it would be a great idea to kind of get inside her world and let her tell us all about how it works. So, without further ado, we're gonna go out on this, and we wish you all the very best these holidays. We will be back after our LAFCA voting. We vote on the 9th, so at some point after that, we will get together again and give you another show. But until then, we're on hiatus, and we're going to go out now with our interview with LaToya Morgan.
I'm here with LaToya Morgan, showrunner, writer extraordinaire, introduced to me by our mutual friend Sherman Augustus.
The great Sherman Augustus.
You do usually have to say that.
Yes.
Right before you say Sherman Augustus, who, of course, plays Nathaniel Moon on Into the Badlands.
Yes.
Now, Into the Badlands was a show that you wrote for previously. And I know that you didn't create Sherman's character, but Sherman says you're the one who brought his character to life.
Wow.
That made his character become the extremely popular character that it is right now. Sherman says, praise be to LaToya for that. So,
oh, he's so sweet.
Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I can't take full credit for that. The show was created by Al Goff and Miles Miller, who I didn't come into the show until season 2. And season 2 just happens to be when Sherman's character was introduced. And how the writer's room works is we talk a lot about the different characters. We talk a lot about the story arc of where we want to see certain characters to go. And we knew that we wanted the character of Sonny, who's our lead, to meet Daniel Wu, to meet this clipper or assassin who was even more prolific than he was. Now, Sonny is known as the baddest clipper in the lands, and if he could meet someone who was bigger and badder than him, oh my God, what would that fight look like? And so that was the scaffolding that we used to sort of start talking about the character of Nathaniel Moon. And we talk a lot about spaghetti westerns. Obviously, we talk about martial arts films on the show. But we thought that if they could have this really great meeting where at first Sonny's character isn't sure that Sherman's character Moon is a clipper, and then he finds that out through a fight sequence, and then they sort of have this heart to heart, and then they have a big fight at the end. We thought that would be a wonderful way to intro that character.
Yeah, and it is absolutely fantastic with all those tattoos and everything like that.
Yeah, all his kills.
Yeah.
It was great, and Sherman killed the role. I mean, he in season 2 only had 1 episode, and he was so great that we had to bring him back for season 3.
Yeah, and which was fantastic. We're getting ready. I think we're doing this in early November.
Yep.
So I think that in February, if I'm not mistaken, the rest of the season will air on AMC.
Yeah, end of January. Yes.
End of January. Okay. Which is fantastic. Let's go back. Let's go earlier. Yeah. We're waiting for our co-host Wade Major to show up. Wade had a few things to do. Wade has a 5-year-old.
Oh, keep you busy, those 5-year-olds.
So things happen when you have a 5-year-old. So, but he'll be here soon. Our audience is very familiar with Wade and all his kids. Sherman might be coming by too.
He was
better. Supposed to be here. He was supposed to be here, but that's okay. If he doesn't know, we'll just do something else. Let's go back. Yep. Let's go back to when you first decided that you wanted to be a writer in television and film.
Yeah.
And just walk us through that. When did this all begin for you, LaToya?
Wow. Well, I've always been a writer since I was a little kid, and I was obsessed with a couple of things. One was Stephen King books, and I would I would read all his books, and I loved his short story collections the most. No disrespect to his novels, which are phenomenal, but I was a big fan of his short fiction. And every time I would get to the scary parts, I would go and sit in the room with my brother so that I would have someone next to me while I was reading the scary parts of the books. And so I love that feeling of being on the edge of your seat, that suspense. So that was one of the big catalysts for me. And then as far as television, one of the shows growing up that I would watch all the time, aside from the usuals, Cosby Show, Different Worlds, Married with Children, Melrose Place, all that stuff. Every weekend, every 4th of July, they would have the Twilight Zone marathon.
Oh, yes.
And so that really stayed with me. I just remember the smell of barbecue and the theme song from the Twilight Zone being a real part of my growing up.
Rod Serling's writing, of course, was extremely sophisticated.
Oh, yes.
And education in and of itself. Into psychology and philosophy and so many things. So sort of be shaped by that and some of the other great writers who came through that show.
Yeah.
That's
Richard Matheson.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
So many,
stuff. So that there's people who are Twilight Zone people, and then there are people who are Outer Limits people.
Oh yeah, I'm a Twilight Zone kid.
But I'm
gotta
a
say.
Twilight Zone person.
Yeah, I mean, like the stories were so great. What it taught me was how to mask issues in genre, basically. And so there's certain episodes of the series that I have never forgotten. That one with the doll, like talking Tina. I hate dolls to this day because of that episode. I mean, there's so many great To Serve Man. I can rattle off a million, but they were really wonderful at putting social issues, which are very close to my heart, into bite-sized pieces that people could digest.
So Stephen King, The Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
popular entertainment. My wife is a gigantic fan of Stephen King.
Yeah.
I bought her every hardback copy.
Oh, you're a
of
good
every
husband.
Stephen
I love
King
that.
novel from when we were in high
'Cause
school.
you gotta-
I still have them all.
You got to have the hardbacks,
Yeah,
too.
I have them. Yeah. The Twilight Zone, popular entertainment.
Yeah.
Is what drove you. When you were reading that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
did you envision yourself writing it in the medium, novels or for television or film?
I really did. I was also a nerdy kid who really liked Turner Classic Movies.
Oh, yeah.
And so at the end of the credits, I would see, written by, Billy Wilder, directed by Billy Wilder. And I was like, wow, I love these stories. I wonder if I could do that. I want to write these types of stories. And so I always envisioned myself mostly as a feature writer at first. So I went to film school at AFI and spent 2 years there learning from some of the best writers in the business, people who have been nominated for Academy Awards, giving me notes on my scripts, which was great. And then we added a television part of the curriculum where people who had worked in writers' rooms, from Battlestar Galactica to Cheers to so many wonderful shows, would come in and talk to us about working in a writer's room. And I said, oh, that's it. That's what I wanted to do. I love the idea of working with other people as a community to tell a story.
It's obvious to people listening to you that you're a woman. Might not be that obvious that you're a black woman.
I am that too.
An African American
Yes.
woman. So talk a little bit about that during the period that you were doing these things. Shonda Rhimes, I don't suppose had happened yet.
Yeah.
Had she happened already?
Oh yeah, Grey's Anatomy was huge.
So there was there's a path that you could see
Sure.
specifically for you.
Yeah, and Shonda Rhimes, I always used her as one of the people whose career I wanted to emulate. So it was her, and I really loved John Wells and all the great television shows that he created. And so I would always say,
ER.
Yeah, ER and West Wing, and I would always say I wanted to be like the love child of Shonda Rhimes and John Wells. And so yeah, her career was something that I really admired and looked towards, and I knew that obviously I'm a drama writer, and I really love drama and character pieces. So I tried to figure out a way to get into that, and so it was really great when my first job was on Shameless on Showtime.
Oh, Shameless! Yeah, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah,
so sassy,
yes,
so sassy,
very funny, also very dramatic, which was great.
Yeah, and a disordinary sort of show that requires disordinary writing. The sort of writing that I call disordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that. Writing for a show like Shameless means that the ordinary things that a writer would do, the sort of plot points that they were hit, that doesn't happen on that show.
Right.
How does it come about that you guys get so off the beaten path? Right from the the invention of the characters. Those aren't ordinary characters.
Yeah, well, we had a template to work off of because Shameless is based on a BBC show, and so they had, I think, 3 or 4 seasons that were already in the can. And when they started to make the American version, we sort of used the first season of the BBC series as the template. And then, so we had our foundation. And then from there in season 2, when I joined the show, we just went off the reservation. We just started making up stuff and throwing out ideas. And the writer's room was really great because there was nothing that was off limits. I mean, the show is called Shameless. So you could really pitch any idea and we could figure out a way to make that into a story. And so it was really a great egalitarian room, the way John Wells ran the room, which was he wanted everybody to participate, everyone to feel like they had some skin in the game. And then there were no limits to what you could throw out there. So it was a great marriage of wonderful story ideas and then great people to work with.
How did that job come about? That's your first job.
Yep, that was my very first job. And I got that job because I did a fellowship called the Warner Brothers Television Writing Workshop. And that is sort of like a writer's room kind of training program. And from there, I ended up getting my first job on Shameless.
Outstanding. What was it like? How was that room built? That writing room? Women, men, people of color. What year is this?
This was 2012, so that was my first gig. And there were 3 women, 3 guys, only 1 black person. That was me. And I check a couple of boxes. And I was the youngest writer in the room, so everyone had like 20 years experience on me, so that was very nerve-wracking. But the other split in the room was that half of the writers were drama writers. I was one of the drama writers, and the other half were comedy writers. And so it was just a really interesting way to build a room where the show has, as part of its DNA is that it's really, really funny. And so you have these writers who are so experienced just throwing out joke after joke after joke. I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can write down my joke and come and pitch it later, but I don't have that, that lizard brain where I could just come up with it off the top of my head. So it was interesting to marry those 2 pieces and then have such a great outcome from it.
That's an interesting notion there that I don't think that I was aware of, that in television, there are drama writers and comedy writers. I mean, I know that there are people who write dramas and there are people who write comedy, but I didn't know that it was sort of defined so distinctly like that in the hiring process.
Yeah, and it's because the way those rooms are run are very different. So Shameless is an anomaly in that it is a dramedy. So you require both drama and comedy writers. But a traditional half-hour comedy room runs very differently. They tend to have more writers, so you're looking at like 15 writers sometimes for something like 2.5 Men or some one of the big network comedies. And
real joke machines.
Yes, where people are there. That's some of their job every day is just to pitch jokes. Forget the story, forget that. It's just joke. So that's a different type of muscle than what you do in a drama room, which is mostly about character, a lot of structure. But sometimes you run into a show like Shameless where the 2 meet.
Outstanding. From Shameless, where did you go?
I worked on a show after that called Parenthood, which was wonderful.
Robert Townsend's show?
This is Jason Tatum's show. It was based on the film with Ron Howard about this family. And
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Steve Martin's in that? No. Ron Howard. Oh my God, I'm blanking on everyone's names.
I think I remember that.
Diane Wiest is in it.
Okay.
But it's a really great drama, and Jason Tatum took it and turned it into a television show. Wait, Steve Martin is in it. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait. You're right. You're totally right. Yes, because he was the dad. I haven't seen the movie in forever.
Well,
clearly.
yeah, that goes back ways.
Yeah, that movie was like, yeah. But yeah, so and then Peter Krause plays the father in this version, in the television version.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. It was a different kind of family show. So I worked on that for a year, and then after that, I jumped over to AMC and worked on a show called Turn: Washington Spies, which is about spies during the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, big drama.
Yeah, huge.
That show, sure. So, but a certain amount of espionage and sort of actiony sort of stuff too.
Yeah, and historical, of course.
And then.
And then halfway through working on Turn, they asked me if I would jump over and help out on Into the Badlands. And so for the last 2 years, I've also been working on that.
Which brings us back around full circle to where we started.
Yep.
Coming in there and doing what you did with Sherman since Nathaniel Moon, and thus making him the big old television star that he is today.
He is.
Now, you and Sherman, you're working on a few things for television, for AMC.
Yes.
But you're also working on a little movie. How much do you want to talk about your movie?
I can talk a little bit about it. Sure.
Team Merlin, and so between the television work that you're doing, this film happens. Where did the idea for the film come about, and how does the film fit into the whole overall oeuvre of what you're doing? It's called Team Merlin.
It's called Team Merlin, and it's a small little character piece, as I am wont to do. And it follows a woman and a man. They're a married couple, and they're on the campaign trail for the 2020 election, and their political what ambitions are sort of put to the test when a secret is about to come out about their relationship that could derail a bid for the presidency. And so I'm a big fan of films like The Ides of March and The Contender. I have a political background. I used to be a community organizer, and so I worked in those political circles. So I've always been fascinated by those stories, but often those stories are not told from a Black perspective, and so I wanted to tell that type of story with a little more Black on it,
or a female perspective for that matter.
Absolutely,
in both instances, you have that sort of that thing. A political movie, a movie set in the world of politics, in today's politics, which are perfectly insane. How do you look out at the world of politics as they exist today and make a movie set in the world of politics and feel like that, I mean, even movies, not movies, television show like House of Cards.
Sure. Which I love,
How do you, what do you do? How do you decide where you want to live and still stay in reality?
Yeah, I think for me, the key was after the 2016 election, I was devastated, as most people were. And it got me thinking immediately about 2020 and who could help save the world. And so, of course, I thought of Black women, because 94% of Black women voted to save the world. Yeah. And so those numbers don't lie. And so I really started thinking about what type of person could run that could save the day. But then I also started thinking about just the balance of media coverage and who gets to be a flawed candidate and what does that mean. And so it really put me on the trail of thinking about this story of, flawed candidates, and does the perfect have to be the enemy of the good? And so I was thinking of this piece as sort of architecture for a larger feature piece. And so the short will almost serve as, I don't know if you remember Whiplash a few years ago, they did a short film version of that. And then
Damien Chazelle's
Damien Chazelle's script, and then later on they built it into a feature. And so I was sort of using that as the model.
Outstanding, beautiful stuff. Sherman happens to be the principal character in it.
Sherman is the very devilish and very handsome husband character in this, and it's very funny when I sent him the script and I asked him to come to my house to do like a table read for me, just to work the material. Because this is my first time directing, and so I was very excited about that and also very nervous. And I trust Sherman because he's such a great actor, but he's also just such a roll with the punches type of person. And so we were sitting around my kitchen table going through the table read, and there's some twists and turns in this story that you don't expect. And literally when he got to the end of the script, he fell onto the floor. He fell onto the floor because he was like, "Oh my God!"
I've read the script, so I know why he hit the floor.
So yeah, it was great to have that reaction and just to have his 1,000% commitment and his trust in me to do this, and so that really gave me heart.
You got that moment right.
Yeah.
You nailed that moment.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's the way that I like to write, though. I like. I just love character pieces, of course, but I like digging into the psyche of people and what makes them tick, what drives them to make certain decisions, even when they're mistakes, because I think you reveal a lot when people make mistakes or they fail.
Which is, I suppose, a part of your sort of fundamental writing philosophy.
Yeah.
As you look out at the media world today, there's so much space, I suppose you might say, the Netflixes and the Amazon Primes and all the Hulus and all this kind of stuff. Do you think that there is therefore that much more room for perspectives, ideas, opportunity?
I do, and I'm very hopeful that, especially with the climate that we have now, where people are more actively looking to give people opportunities, that more will pop up. I know for me, one of the things that I'm always preaching about, I'm on a couple of committees at the Writers Guild, and I do mentorship on my own, where I'm trying to get more new voices through the door, because I think people have this misconception that they think that, oh my God, like, how can we find, where are all the Black people? Where are the women? Where are they hiding? And I'm like, they're not hiding. They're right here. I can introduce you to 100 of them right now. Yeah.
There has for years been this thing of where, we're going to set up a program, we're going to do a thing, and we're going to see if we can. The program is not necessary. Sister right over there can write her ass off.
Yes.
Sister standing next to her is a hell of a DP.
Yes.
Just hire them.
And that was the principle that I wanted to apply for this film. So. My producer is a woman. Obviously, I'm a woman. My DP is also a Filipino woman. So I wanted to really populate the crew. And I really wanted to populate the crew with some really fantastic and talented women in positions of power.
It's sort of an amazing thing. Let me take you over to Black Panther, the movie Black Panther, right?
Love that movie.
This is a fantastic movie. I'm watching this movie, and I wrote a whole essay about it. And one of the things I like, Black Panther as a character and all, that's all fine. T'Challa and all that. That's all great. Read the comic book. But I'm watching this movie, and I'm realizing that it's the women in this movie, particularly these Black women, his sister and his defenders and his mama, everybody. They are just saving this brother left and right.
Yes.
I mean, this brother, and it's just, I'm watching this movie. I'm like, I'm wondering if everybody grab that. Wade Major just walked in, grabbed that microphone, turned it on, put on those headphones. That's Wade Major, LaToya Morgan.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Wade Major. LaToya listens to Film Week all the time, so it's not like she's not going to.
I'm sorry.
You are notorious.
It's not like she's going to know. It's not like she's not going to know you. Turn that microphone on.
Okay. I just want to say it's Al Pacino's fault.
Well, what did Pacino do? What did Pacino do?
Just seems like the right person to blame. No, I was just at a press event for At Eternity's Gate, the new Julian Schnabel film with Willem Dafoe playing Van Gogh. Now, as Tim knows, I'm sure as you know too, LaToya, these press events, you usually walk in, you have some hors d'oeuvres, you talk, you hang out as long as you want, and then you leave. No, not at this one. This was at the Saucer House. You know about the Saucer House?
No.
Built in the 1960s. It's like an architectural legend here in L.A. It's in Bel Air. And it's owned by Benedict Taschen of Taschen Books.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So you go, you get out of your car, they valet your car. There's a van that takes you up the road to the funicular. Then you wait in line at the funicular, which takes you to the top of the Saucer House. And then there was an event where Guillermo del Toro was interviewing Willem Dafoe and Julian Schnabel. And Al Pacino was there, and he was late, and they started late.
Back to Pacino.
And anyway, it was a thing, and I was trapped on the other side of the thing, and I was like, I can't get up and interrupt this thing. I can't be the guy that just goes, excuse me, and just like blows the thing. So I had to wait, and then I had to wait for the funicular, and anyway, and Mark Kaiser was there. I didn't even know he was going to be there.
Mark Farmer, not Farmer, but the guy that used to do the show.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
So, but I bailed on those people as fast as I could to come here.
I love it.
We've been having a nice long chat. We talked about her entire career actually, and the little movie that she just made with Sherman, and we were just starting to talk about Black Panther.
Yeah,
and the way that movie was constructed, particularly with these women, these Black women, and Ryan Coogler, young man, who you can tell from watching that movie loves his mama.
Yeah.
And understands something very specific about the dynamic between women and particularly Black women and their sons. Did that movie particularly hit you in that way?
Yeah, I think the strongest part of that film is the female roles. I mean, obviously, Black Panther it's called Black Panther, but everything from, Angela Bassett being his mom, the Dora Milaje, like all of that, like such strong women who care not only about him and themselves, but about the world. And I feel like that's something that resonates with Black women in the real world as well.
And women in general. Wade and I talked about it with Charlize Theron's Road Warrior movie.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know if you did, but
that you mean when she played Furiosa?
Yeah. And you watch this movie, and the movie's called Mad Max.
Yeah.
But the movie ain't about Mad Max.
It's really not. Yeah.
This movie's about this chick.
Yeah.
Right. And I love it. And Wade's a big fan of that.
Here's what I wanted to ask you about, because it used to be. I mean, look, everything in the world used used to be the male world. It's only within the past century that we're getting, outside of that. And it used to be, the Joan of Arcs and the Madame Curies and the Jane Austens were the exception to the rule. And television in particular was a boy's place.
Right.
From day one straight on through until maybe 10, 15 years ago. People like Shonda started kind of cracking that down. And, a good friend of mine from film school, Natalie Chaidez, was recently showrunner. She's been on a number of shows, and she was just on
Queen of the South, right?
Queen of the South, yeah. And now it just seems like women are finally getting their shot. A lot of women directing Game of Thrones, a sword and dragons kind of guy thing.
But a show that is invested in its female characters and franchise all those women.
And I just got done watching season 3 of Daredevil, and like half those episodes are directed by women, and they are tough and they're violent. And I'm thinking, okay, so something has happened. Something's really broken through, especially where women in action are concerned. Can you talk about that? What's happened?
Well, people started to finally get the memo. Women are a resource, and there shouldn't have been limitations to what they're asked to do in the first place. And so I know on our show, on Into the Badlands, the most exciting characters for me are the women. So you have the widow, you have Lydia, who's like this matriarch character. You have young Tilda, who's this badass fighter. Like, we give them stuff to do on purpose. And those are conversations that we have every day in the writer's room, where we don't want our female characters to just be window dressing. We want them to get in there, get down and dirty, fight, because that's exciting and it's interesting. And I think that across the board on different shows, even I just started watching a new season of House of Cards, and Robin Wright finally getting a chance to truly shine. Hopefully this is not a spoiler, but as president.
That's in all the ads.
That she's coming to her own. It's her turn, right? As the ads say. And so I think, people woke up and smelled the coffee.
You're working on 2 shows, I think, for AMC right now, if I'm not mistaken. Can you give us an outline of what they're like and where they are in process?
Yeah, both of them are based on books. One is called They Can't Kill Us All. It's about the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's a fictionalized version of that. And so the main character is a young woman, and a police incident happens, and she's sort of trying to figure out how to solve that issue. And the other project that I'm working on is also based on a book series called Wool. These books by Hugh Howey, which were great big bestsellers in the sci-fi dystopian future space. And it's really about these people who the outside of the world has gone toxic and it's terrible, and they now live in this underground silo, and bad things, like a murder mystery happens and bad things happen. And this young woman who comes from the bottom of the silo sort of has this meteoric rise to the top. And so it's about a lot of things. About, first of all, oh my God, what are we doing to the planet? And second of all, it's really about class and different spheres, and what will we do to survive, and how do politics work in a community like that? So it's a lot of fun, and it goes back to the thing that we were talking about Twilight Zone and how you disguise the issues in a genre space.
Big fan of Twilight Zone.
Hey, as we are.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah. See, I love that. And as Tim will tell you, I do not look at Mad Max and dystopian stuff as entertainment. They're training videos.
Yes, they really are in some
training
ways.
videos. Because
Take
it's
notes,
going to happen.
people.
It's going to happen. So I watch The Road Warrior. I take notes. I get ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's so
Let me ask you something about to demystify some of what you do, because everybody who listens to our podcast, they've heard audio commentaries, they read books, they know what a producer does, they know what a director does, they know what a screenwriter does, but the term showrunner and the term writer's room, it's all still mysterious to people. Can you talk a little bit to sort of demystify that? What does a showrunner do, and what happens in that writer's room that is that people just always wonder about?
Well, the showrunner is sort of like the general. and so they're the person who's in charge of everything. So usually they will write the pilot, they will create the world of the show, whether it's an original idea or based on a piece of IP, and then they answer all the questions. So they hire the director, they hire the production designer who comes up with the look of the show, and then they hire a writer's room. And so everyone is coming to the table with a certain understanding, a cursory understanding of what the show is. And then as you all sit around, so in the writer's rooms I've been in, you have between like 7 to 12 writers, and you all sit down and really dig into the material and start to take it apart and come up with new ideas and fresh perspectives, characters that you really like, that you want to see more of, storylines that you think would be interesting. And so every day of the week you guys talk about that stuff, and then you put it on a big whiteboard where you break it down into episodes. So for the AMC shows that I've worked on, we usually have about 10 episodes. So you break that down into 1 through 10, and then the showrunner assigns, you break that down all together, and then the showrunner assigns one writer per episode to write the episode. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what the showrunner does. And how the writer's room works is you're just constantly pitching thoughts and ideas, and hopefully some of them fly because people can come up with some wild and crazy stuff. And, you work together as a team. I always say that being in the writer's room is my favorite team sport. And if you're a really great showrunner, you know how to cast that room. And so just to use a basketball analogy, because I'm a basketball fan, you have your center, you have your point guard, you have your, your forward, you have your wing. So each person usually kind of has a specialty that they're good at. Some people are better at structure. Some people are character people. And so a showrunner will try to build the room based upon balancing those needs.
Really quickly, Laker fan?
Clippers, baby.
Oh.
Clippers. Oh, yeah.
I'm a Clippers fan.
Right.
Going back to
Clippers,
when they were.
baby, yeah.
I go back to when they were in San Diego.
Yeah.
That's how far I go back.
Look,
That's a Lakers fan over there.
I'm from LA, and they're the big brother.
I
We're
get
the
you.
little
I
brother.
get
And so I will say I've watched way more Laker games now that LeBron is here.
Yeah.
So many more. So
Tyson Chandler's coming to LA.
I know.
Right,
I read
right?
that. I said that's
Yeah.
a great get.
That's a good bit.
They
The Clippers
So-
do brilliant things like trading Blake Griffin.
Don't
So-
bring that up. That hurt my soul.
That
I
did
can't.
mine too. So in the writer's room, when you're assigned, I have to assume that as the scripts start coming in,
Yeah.
some writers are stronger with certain characters than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dialogue doesn't quite match the
Sure.
character. There's some massaging and some stitching that has to go in.
And that's done by the showrunner.
Right. So a lot of work, a little bit of work, not such fun work. How would you characterize that?
I mean, it depends on also part of the writer's room is there's different levels of experience.
Yeah.
So when you first start out, you're a staff writer, and so that's like the low man on the totem pole. So you're not expected as a staff writer to know what an executive producer would know or how to fix a story the way that the showrunner will.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of leeway in that, where your job as the staff writer is to, I always say, sorry, another sports analogy, to get it to the 20-yard line. At
Right.
least you try
Yeah.
to get it to the 20, and then the showrunner will pick it up and get it into the end zone. And so you're going to do as much writing and rewriting as you possibly can to capture the voice, because that's the odd thing about being in the writer's room. You're trying to capture the voice of someone who's not you.
Yeah.
And so it takes some tries, but if you're in other writers' rooms and as you learn, you get better and better at it.
So the point that I wanted to get to, which is what I wanted our listeners to make sure they understand, is that even if you're watching, let's say, let's say a show like Into the Badlands or Daredevil or whatever it might be, and you're seeing different writers' names in all the episodes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the show writer's writing their ass off.
Right.
Yeah, still,
Yes.
and just not getting credit for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's part of what you know going in is
Yeah.
that you're, as showrunner, going to rewrite a certain amount of scripts that other people have written, but the person whose name is on the script
Yeah.
is usually the assigned writer. Yeah,
Yeah, no matter how much it actually changes, perhaps. Yeah.
right.
How much are you engaged in the actual production
of a given episode of a show with the director, DPs, and that kind of stuff.
And locking shows.
Yeah.
Down in the pit there.
Yeah, it really depends on who the showrunner is, and I've had the good fortune of working for great showrunners who have allowed me to be a part of the production. And so, if you're working on a show where the showrunner allows you to go, our show shoots in Ireland for Into the Badlands, so I got to go to Ireland and work with the director, work with the actors, the production designer, the costumes. So you interact as the producer of the episode and the writer with all those different departments. And your job when you step onto the set is to really hold tight to the vision of the showrunner that you've all been talking about in the writer's room. And so the directors that come on, they're usually the guest. So the DP is usually the same, but the directors are different per episode. And so they may be thinking they want to shoot something a certain way or add a certain character in that may or may not take you away from the vision of what the showrunner wants. And so your job is to really help build with the connective tissue.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want you both to see. There's a picture of Al Pacino right next to Michael Mann.
True.
That's
Al
great.
Pacino and Michael Mann blocking the door. I could not get out. I would have
love
had
it.
to push them aside.
Oh,
So
my gosh, oh, my
I've seen
Photographic evidence. I like it.
I have seen Heat. I'm not going to mess with either of those guys. So what is the best and the worst part of the job?
The best part is the writing, and the worst part is the writing. I mean, it is the joy of my life and the bane of my existence. You know, there are just times where there's always a deadline, so you constantly have, something that you're racing to finish. And sometimes that requires you to be up really late at night trying to figure out how the hell you're going to crack this scene. And then the joy of all that is seeing it made. I mean, that's the beauty of television that I can say that's different from film, which is you write an episode and in maybe 6 months, it's going to air. Your name is going to be on TVs across the country. So it's an amazing feeling. I've only been doing this for about 6 years, but I still get excited when I see that.
Fantastic. The world has changed that much. The film, LaToya, of course, worked on a short film.
Yes.
And on a feature film. Now, there, though, the voice is singular, right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about making that transition.
Well, I've always liked film. I love film, and I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. And when I got my first job in television, I made sure that when I signed with an agent and a manager, I said, I want to make sure that I'm able to work in both. How can I balance that out and be able to do that? And so I think, when I take a break from working in TV writers' rooms, I would always write a new feature film during the 6-month break. And that was
Smart.
and that
That's
was
smart. That's smart.
And that would be because it's great to work on someone else's show and their vision, but sometimes I just want to kill some people, right? You write a drama where some shoot 'em up, or some piece where there's a suspense thriller and there's a high body count. It's good. It's cathartic. And so, and it's a good practice because I'm a big believer in the 10,000 hour rule. The more you write, the better you get.
Yeah.
And so I just tried to exercise those muscles.
Outstanding.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, LaToya Morgan.
Thank you for having me.
Writer, Into the Badlands, Turn, Shameless, on and on and on and on.
Yes. Now, so many things.
Okay.
Team Merlin.
When will the new shows, new AMC shows, be appearing on? How deep are you into those?
I'm still in the development process, so hopefully we'll hear about that early next year.
Okay, man, it takes a while.
It takes a while.
Outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys.
LaToya Morgan. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me. The future looks so right. In fact, it looks so bright. I feel as if they're polishing the sun for me.